Chapter 27. Buzz. Li Shimin couldn't help but tremble all over. His eyes, which were originally a little dejected and humbly seeking advice, were now filled with astonishment. Oh my God! This sentence was actually so philosophical? This wasn't a philosophy, it was a saying of wisdom. At this time, Li Shimin only felt that his scalp was tingling. The blood in his body was swelling and excited. Every word that Zhang Feng said was surging in his heart, one after another. Every wave would make him feel different. Was it really said by this young man who was only 20 years old? If he hadn't seen Zhang Feng say it himself, Li Shimin would definitely think that Zhang Feng read it from some ancient book. Otherwise, with his decades of experience, he couldn't sum up such a great truth. How could a 20-year-old person who didn't go out of the house say such words with emotion? Was he a monster? Or was he really a person who had cultivated on Mount Wutai for 5,000 years as he said? Zhang Feng's handsome face and kind smile actually contained such a huge amount of Confucian thought. How did he do it? This was the talent that Li Shimin needed. The talent that the Tang dynasty needed. At this time, Li Shimin was more certain that he had to accept Zhang Feng's idea. If he got Zhang Feng, he would definitely make the Tang dynasty prosper forever. He exhaled deeply. Li Shimin murmured, "Take people as a mirror and know the gains and losses. Take history as a mirror and know the rise and fall." Good. Shopkeeper, what you said is true. Really like this sentence. Li Shimin blurted out the word, "I," when he was excited. In an instant he was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Then he quickly covered it up. "Shopkeeper, I really admire you to the point of prostrating myself before you. Just based on what you've said today, you deserve a bow from me, Lao Li." As he spoke, Li Shimin actually stood up and respectfully bowed like a Confucian scholar. This was the first time he treated someone so seriously since he became the king of Qin. This was enough to prove just how high Zhang Feng's position in his heart was. Most importantly, Li Shimin desperately wanted to lay his cards on the table with Zhang Feng. But how could Zhang Feng let him do that? He hurriedly helped Li Shimin up. Zhang Feng was not surprised that a merchant could understand this set of Confucian principles, and it was even a famous saying that had been personally spoken by Li Shimin. For a merchant to be able to understand so much and be so moved was not strange at all. Even when the emperor saw this during the pilgrimage, Zhang Feng dared to guarantee that Li Shimin would be impressed. This was because Li Shimin had yet to say it out loud. Zhang Feng used both hands to help Li Shimin up. "Ayaya, Lao Li, what are you doing? Between the two of us, if you do this, you're really treating me as an outsider." "I'm just saying it casually, don't take it seriously. You're simply trying to make me suffer." Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng and could not help but smile. "Brother Zhang, you're treating me as an outsider. It's precisely because I, Lao Li, treat you as a friend that I should treat you like this. Otherwise I, Lao Li, will feel uneasy." Actually, Li Shimin was speaking the truth. Today, if he did not come here, how could he untie the knot in his heart? Moreover, the matter between him and Wei Zheng today, anyone could see that something big was going to happen. If it was not handled well, he would really become a loner. Zhang Feng's one sentence solved the crisis, and he even said such wise words. How could Li Shimin not be grateful? And it was precisely because of this that Li Shimin was able to understand Zhang Feng's temperament in this half a year. Therefore, after hearing Zhang Feng's words this time, the shock in his heart was slightly reduced. "Brother Zhang, Lao Li, I have already engraved these words in my heart, but forgive me for being stupid, but what does these words have to do with the matter I'm talking about?" Zhang Feng shook his head. "Lao Li, think about it carefully. That housekeeper you mentioned, what he said to you, is it not based on people? And most importantly, you said that his conduct is good, and he is upright and plain-spoken. This proves that his position in your heart must be very important. Furthermore, this old housekeeper has played a significant role in your business." Li Shimin was shocked. How could he guess that? He could not help but nod. "That's right. This housekeeper of mine is indeed like that. He has played a vital role in my business. Without him, many of my businesses would not have been able to do so well. Zhang Feng slapped his thigh. Then isn't that enough? This person, not only can you not let him go, instead, you have to put him in an important position. Otherwise, every time you make a major mistake in your business, no one will be able to remind you at the crucial moment. At this point, Zhang Feng lowered his voice and said in a low voice, "Let me tell you about a person. Do you know Wei Zheng?" Li Shimin was slightly stunned. This time, he came to solve Wei Zheng's problem. Li Shimin could not help but say hurriedly, "I have indeed heard of Wei Zheng." Chapter 28. In fact, Zhang Feng had already made it very clear. Li Shimin had already understood the importance of this. If he really let Wei Zheng leave at this time, the imperial court would indeed be a lot quieter in the future. But he would not be able to hear anything he did not want to hear anymore. There would only be bootlickers around him. This was a major drawback for his ambition and the future development of the Tang dynasty. And most importantly, as Zhang Feng said, this was a lesson learned from others. Zhang Feng saw that Li Shimin was deep in thought. He patted Li Shimin on the shoulder and said, "Lao Li, think about it. What is the similarity between Wei Zheng and the old butler you mentioned? They are the same kind of people?" "Yes. Both of them are stubborn and the kind of people who are upright and can't tolerate sand in their eyes. Not only that, both of them are relatively straightforward. Wei Zheng's situation is very similar to the current emperor and you. The emperor deliberately avoided Wei Zheng, but he did not know that Deng Yu was building a cart behind closed doors. What is the difference between this and you? If this goes on, do you think there will be people like Wei Zheng around the emperor in the long run?" Li Shimin's face could not help but become serious. Zhang Feng continued, "The current emperor did a little better than you. Although he treated Wei Zheng like this is understandable. This Wei Zheng used to be Li Jianxing's subordinate and should have been executed. However, the emperor did not execute him. Instead, he put him in an important position. This is the first reason. The second reason is that the emperor is open-minded. He knows that honest words are unpleasant to the ear. Therefore, although he is indeed a little displeased many times, and this may be the case for anyone else, how did the emperor deal with it? But the emperor put Wei Zheng in an important position. This is the difference between you and the emperor. It is that you are narrow-minded. But I'm not saying that you're narrow-minded. I'm just making a comparison. Think about it. The fact that His Majesty can keep Wei Zheng by his side is enough to show how benevolent and righteous His Majesty is." Li Shimin knew that Zhang Feng was talking about him. But when he heard Zhang Feng talk about righteousness and benevolence again, he couldn't help but feel a little smug. He continued, "And you're right. His Majesty is indeed wise. How can a commoner like me compare to him?" Zhang Feng didn't notice Li Shimin's strange behavior. He clinked his wine bowl with Li Shimin's and continued, "That's right. That's the theory, but there's another meaning behind it. His Majesty can be wise and careless, and can care for the world. Can't you teach His Majesty that he can't tolerate a small steward? If you really dare to drive him away, I can guarantee that your business will fail in less than 3 years. And if you don't drive him away and use him again, then the people around you will follow suit. Such talents will appear endlessly by your side." "That's right. That's right." Li Shimin slammed the table excitedly. Then, he picked up his wine bowl and gulped down a few mouthfuls. "What you said makes sense. Since the emperor can be so tolerant, I only need to learn from His Majesty's way of doing things. There's nothing wrong with that. Brother Zhang, thank you for your priceless advice today. Once I go back, I'll put my old steward in an important position. That way, the neighbors will." Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder sincerely. "Lao Li, you finally understand the logic behind it. Now, the knot in your heart has been untied, right? If you still have any doubts or don't understand anything, feel free to ask. I have enough wine, and I don't have any other strong points, but I've lived for a long time and know a lot." Good, good, good. If there's anything I don't understand, or if there's anything I'm confused about, I'll definitely ask you more." Li Shimin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Zhang Feng was good at everything, but he loved to act tough and show off. This was also where Zhang Feng was interesting and had a bright spot. The two of them chatted as they toasted each other. Soon, the sky was getting dark, and the light in the tavern gradually dimmed. Zhang Feng lit the oil lamp, and in an instant, the entire tavern was lit up again. The table in front of the two of them was already a mess. Even though Zhang Feng's alcohol tolerance was very good, his footsteps were a little light at this time. Li Shimin shook his dizzy head and looked at the time. He stood up shakily and said, Brother Zhang, brother. It's not early anymore. I'll go back first. Listening to your words today is really better than 10 years of reading the sage books. I won't disturb you anymore. Let's get drunk another day. Zhang Feng smacked his lips as if he hadn't had enough. However, seeing Li Shimin's current state, if he continued to drink, this guy would definitely be punished by his wife to kneel on the washboard when he went back. Therefore, he didn't force him to stay. He clasped his fist and said, Then, how about I call a car and send you back? No. Wait. Please wait. How could Li Shimin dare to let Zhang Feng send him back? As he hurriedly spoke, he supported himself against the wall and staggered out of the tavern. However, at this time, Zhang Feng grabbed Li Shimin's arm and said, Wait. If you go back like this, you'll definitely be punished by your wife to kneel. But since we're all brothers, I'll help you. As he spoke, Zhang Feng patted his chest loudly. I'll give you a set of ancient calligraphy. Chapter 29. Li Shimin was stunned. Bestowing him with a treasure of calligraphy? Usually, it was others who begged him to bestow upon others. This time, this shopkeeper actually wanted to bestow him with a treasure of calligraphy. In an instant, Li Shimin's interest was piqued. He also wanted to see what Zhang Feng could write. Although Li Shimin was not a well-read person, he had dabbled in the principles of governing a country recorded in ancient books. Thinking of this, Li Shimin clasped his fist and said, Good. Then I'll have to trouble brother Zhang. While speaking, Zhang Feng pulled Li Shimin back to the pub again and then hurriedly spread out the brush, ink, paper and inkstone on a new table. Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng's posture and couldn't help but feel a little happy. Good fellow, this posture, not bad. Brother Zhang, I don't know what kind of calligraphy you're going to bestow upon me. Shoo. Zhang Feng's expression was slightly serious. He took a deep breath, then picked up the brush and began to paint. Li Shimin also curiously stared at Zhang Feng's calligraphy. However, when he saw a paragraph written by Zhang Feng, he couldn't help but stare at it. Zhang Feng's calligraphy was cursive, and it was a wild cursive. Li Shimin couldn't help but read in amazement. Let people be virtuous, know how to make good use of people. Open up a path of speech, accept advice without foundation. Put people as the foundation, deduct lightly, reward the virtuous. Diligent in managing the household, know when to advance and retreat, good system. This, Li Shimin was stunned. Calligraphy, very good. And it could be said that Zhang Feng's calligraphy was really good. But this was not the main point. The main point was that the content of Zhang Feng's calligraphy, it actually contained the principles of governing a country. Although this was only a method of governing an industry written by Zhang Feng, Li Shimin saw a magnificent way of governing a country from this calligraphy. Talent. This was a goddamn talent given to the Tang dynasty by God. Li Shimin was shocked. And under his gaze, Zhang Feng changed the brush to a small soft pen and wrote on the side, in the 2nd year of Jingguan, in the 5th month of the Dinghai lunar calendar, the beginning of summer, Li asked Mr. Zhang Feng's calligraphy in the small pub in the east of Chang and City. Looking at this small line of characters, Li Shimin's eyes could not help but twitch. You were the one who first proposed to give it to me? Now, how did it turn out like this? Ha! Zhang Feng put down the brush and then took out a seal from his chest. He blew a breath of air and then stamped it on the word "N." Then he stared at Li Shimin. Laoli, come, take this calligraphy. I, Zhang Feng, believe that if you take good care of it and make a set of family rules, it will be enough to guarantee that your family business will be worry-free for 100 years. Li Shimin's mouth twitched. I'll have to trouble you, shopkeeper. Your calligraphy is really impeccable. And I, Lao Li, understand the meaning between the lines. Thank you in advance. While talking, Zhang Feng casually rolled up the calligraphy and handed it to Li Shimin. Lao Li, when you go back, spend some money to have this calligraphy. It's best to put it in the ancestral hall or in the study. This is a treasure that can be passed down for generations to come. You must cherish it. Li Shimin's hand that was holding the calligraphy trembled. This calligraphy, I will cherish it. If you become successful in the future, don't forget about me, a small businessman. Zhang Feng couldn't take it anymore and glared at him. Old Li, I don't like what you're saying. What's the relationship between us? We're the closest brothers. If I really become successful, I can't forget you, Lao Li. Yes. We're brothers. While talking, the two of them walked out of the shop with their arms around each other's shoulders. Li Shimin took out 2 gold ingots from his chest and stuffed them into Zhang Feng's hand. Brother, wait. I'm leaving. While talking, he walked away unsteadily. Zhang Feng weighed the gold ingots in his hand and clasped his fist. Lao Li, why don't I call a sedan chair for you? No. You wait. I'm happy to be free. While walking, I can have some peace and quiet and think about what happened today. While talking, Li Shimin couldn't help but quicken his pace. At this time, Li Shimin had almost sobered up. Except for the fact that his head was heavy and his feet were light, Li Shimin was really fine. However, Zhang Feng couldn't take it anymore. After closing the shop door, he didn't even bother to tidy up the house. He staggered straight to the bedroom in the backyard and fell asleep on the bed. On the other side, after Li Shimin passed the entrance of the East Market, the Imperial Guards and the Golden Guards in plain clothes immediately surrounded Li Shimin. Li Shimin was also sitting in the sedan chair. Everyone quickly disappeared in the afterglow of the setting sun. In the sedan chair, Li Shimin recalled every conversation he had with Zhang Feng before, especially the few words Zhang Feng said about using others as a warning, and the content of the calligraphy in his hand. Li Shimin couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. Knowing Zhang Feng, Li Shimin felt that besides the incident at the Xuanwu Gate, this was the most correct thing he had done. Especially the calligraphy in his hand. Not only did it contain the solution to the problem with Wei Zheng, but it also proposed a few guidelines for governing the country. Thinking of this, Li Shimin waved his hand and ordered. Pass down the order, change the route and go to Wei Zheng's residence. Chapter 30. In Wei Zheng's residence. Ever since the court session ended today, Wei Zheng's heart was filled with a sense of annoyance. Although he had advised the emperor in the court session, he knew that the emperor would not listen to him at this time. At this time, in Chang'an City, although the emperor had ordered to stop the screening of chickens and ducks, the impact of this matter was still very strong. Moreover, the voices of the people were still louder and louder. Wei Zheng was very worried. If this went on, what kind of consequences would it cause? Father! In the study, Wei Zheng was still flipping through the documents and dealing with his work. Wei Shuyu gently pushed open the door and called out. However, Wei Zheng did not seem to hear her. He continued to flip through the documents in his hands. Wei Shuyu lit the oil lamp and closed the window. She sat opposite Wei Zheng and said hesitantly, I heard that you contradicted His Majesty in the court session today? How did you know about this? Wei Shuyu felt bitter. Father, the whole Chang'an city knows about this matter. Moreover, His Majesty stayed in the imperial study alone after the court session ended because of you. He hasn't appeared until now. However, I heard from my friends in the Jinwu guards that His Majesty seems to have secretly left the palace again. What? His Majesty left the palace again? Wei Zheng was furious when he heard this. He slammed the table angrily and shouted, When did this happen? Who else knows? Wei Shuyu was stunned and hurriedly said, Father, only I and the leaders of the Jinwu guards know about this matter. What are you doing? Before Wei Shuyu could finish speaking, Wei Zheng put on his official hat and was about to rush out. Wei Shuyu was shocked and quickly blocked Wei Zheng. Get out of the way. This is outrageous. Look at the situation now. His Majesty sneaked out of the palace for a moment of pleasure. How can he face the people of the world? Father, please stop. If you continue to do this, have you thought about the consequences? Right now, the entire court is talking about how you have angered the emperor this time. Perhaps your career is coming to an end. Just listen to me and pretend that you don't know anything. Wei Shuyu panicked. She hugged Wei Zheng's waist and refused to let him go out. At this moment, a servant panted as he ran and shouted, "Master! Something has happened, Master! Quick, quick, go to the door! Your Majesty, they're here!" Wei Zheng and Wei Shuyu were stunned. This servant was a relative of the Wei clan side branch, so he definitely wouldn't dare to spread such rumors. Now, he actually said that the emperor was already at the door? How was this possible? Wei Shuyu could not help but think of many possibilities. He even felt a strong sense of danger. It was impossible for the emperor to come to the Wei mansion for no reason. Furthermore, it was at this time. Wei Shuyu hurriedly asked, "Uncle Quan, is this true?" "Young master, old master, please go and take a look. His Majesty has left the palace in plain clothes. Old master, please hurry and receive the emperor." Wei Zheng was dumbfounded. He was just about to look for the emperor, but he did not expect the emperor to come so soon. Wei Zheng tidied his clothes and waved his hand with a grave expression. "Let's go and receive the emperor." At the entrance of the Wei mansion. At this moment, a large number of imperial guards and imperial guards in plain clothes stood upright on both sides of a sedan chair. At the entrance of the Wei mansion, the obedient servants knelt on the ground, trembling all over. A moment later, the door of the Wei mansion creaked open and Wei Zheng hurried out. As soon as he stepped out, he saw a familiar face standing in front of the sedan chair. Rather than a familiar face, it was more accurate to say that he was Li Shimin's bodyguard, Lu Sanquan. When he saw this person, Wei Zheng understood that the emperor was really here. This old subject, Wei Zheng, welcomes your majesty. Wei Zheng, Wei Shuyu, and all the servants of the Wei mansion hurriedly knelt. Rise. Li Shimin seemed to be in a good mood. When he got out of the sedan chair, he pretended not to see Wei Zheng's stern expression and patted Wei Zheng's shoulder. "Beloved official Wei, let's find a place to have a drink?" "Your Majesty, I'm not feeling well and can't drink." Wei Zheng rejected him without hesitation. However, Li Shimin did not mind. "Then, let's find a place to sit. We have something to say." Wei Shuyu was shocked. At the entrance of the Wei mansion, everyone was shocked. They even wondered if there was something wrong with their ears. Old Master actually dared to speak to the emperor like that? Not only was the emperor not angry, he even seemed to be happy? What was going on? Smelling the faint smell of alcohol in the air, everyone could not help but be dumbfounded again. Could it be that the emperor was drunk? However, they could only think about it. Wei Shuyu took a deep breath as she looked at the backs of Li Shimin and Wei Zheng. "Pass down my orders. No one is to mention a word about what happened tonight." One of the servants looked at the emperor who had disappeared into the night and asked, "Young master, this is rare." Upgrading the Wei mansion, Wei Shuyu glared at the servant. "If you want to die, go ahead." Chapter 31. In Wei Zheng's study. At this moment, only Li Shimin and Wei Zheng were there. Wei Zheng couldn't figure out why Li Shimin would come to him at this time. Moreover, he had left the palace without permission and disappeared for half a day at night. Li Shimin didn't say anything. He just flipped through the thick documents on the desk and couldn't help but feel a little emotional. "Wei Zheng, I've wronged you today. I really know why you're here today, but I feel that your honest words are unpleasant to the ears. I've been muddle-headed." Wei Zheng was stunned. He had thought of many reasons why the emperor would come, but he didn't expect the emperor to say such a thing. At this moment, Li Shimin continued, "Today, I've come here for 3 things. First, from now on, you're free to read all the memorials and documents submitted by the Secretariat and other departments." Wei Zheng was stunned. It was like a bolt from the blue. He even wondered if he had heard it wrong. Wei Zheng couldn't help but look up at Li Shimin in confusion. "I didn't accept my fate on the spur of the moment. If you think there's anything wrong, you can tell me." Today, I did leave the palace, but after sitting for an afternoon, I happened to hear some good words. With the mirror as a mirror, you can correct your clothes. With history as a mirror, you can know the rise and fall. With people as a mirror, you can know the gains and losses. I feel that this priceless advice was bestowed upon the two of us by the heavens. Therefore, I've decided, and I'll announce it to the world in the morning court tomorrow. What I lack is a minister like you who can advise me directly. If everyone around me is like you, the Tang dynasty will definitely surpass the Qin Emperor and the Han dynasty. Li Shimin even stood up when he spoke of his excitement. At this moment, Wei Zheng was already in tears. The emperor finally understood. To be able to say such words, it meant that his previous advice had been effective. What kind of blessing was this for the common people of the world? Although his current position was only the secretary, if it was really like what Li Shimin said at this time, then his power. Wei Zheng immediately knelt down. Your Majesty! This old official is terrified. This old subject, what? Do you think my resignation this time is child's play? Do you want me to issue an edict now for the officials to come and bear witness? Li Shimin pretended to be unhappy and said. Wei Zheng was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly waved his hands. No, this old official is not. This old official feels that, how can he be qualified to take on such a heavy responsibility? Wei Zheng was so anxious that tears streamed down his face. He knew what this decision meant. This meant that the emperor had completely taken him as his confidant. After seeing the displeasure on Li Shimin's face, Wei Zheng hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Li Shimin. This old subject thanks your Majesty for your kindness. This old subject swears that I will not disappoint your Majesty. I will sacrifice my life for your Majesty. This old subject has repeatedly spoken out and talked back to your Majesty in public. Not only did your Majesty not punish me, but your Majesty thinks so highly of me. This old subject is terrified. This old subject is terrified. This old subject is terrified. This old subject. As he spoke, Wei Zheng's voice was choked with sobs. Looking at Wei Zheng, Li Shimin did not feel good, but he also thought of what Zhang Feng said before. He could not help but have mixed feelings. He was even more glad that he came to see Wei Zheng tonight. He was also glad that he was able to meet Zhang Feng in the marketplace. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhang Feng was able to say these words today, perhaps he would still be pondering whether or not to dismiss Wei Zheng. Thinking of this, Li Shimin could not help but sigh in his heart. Fortunately, the Tang dynasty had a genius like Zhang Feng and a minister like Wei Zheng. If he could not surpass the emperor of the Han dynasty, then he, Li Shimin, would really let down the people of the world. Well, my dear minister, you don't have to be like this. In the future, if I do something wrong, you can do what you should do. But today, I will give you a secret order. As he spoke, Li Shimin's tone suddenly changed. He became majestic again. I order you to rest at the hour of the evening from now on. Otherwise, I will punish you for your great disrespect. As soon as he entered the study, Li Shimin understood everything. Although he did not know what time Wei Zheng worked every night, judging from the thickness of these documents, it was definitely not less than midnight. In the long run, how could Wei Zheng, who was already old, stand it? He did not want to lose a minister like Wei Zheng who could advise him. And he was someone who could get such a high evaluation from Zhang Feng. Hearing this, Wei Zheng could not help but be stunned. Your Majesty! You can't do this! The Tang dynasty has just been stabilized, and the drought in Longyu Road is serious. I have made up my mind on this matter. Don't talk about it anymore. Later, I will order Wei Shuyu to supervise this matter. If this matter is not finished, there is still tomorrow. Why do you have to do this? Your health is more important. Li Shimin interrupted Wei Zheng, but his voice suddenly softened as he said the last few words. He knew Wei Zheng's stubbornness, and he was worried about Wei Zheng's health, so he came up with this plan. However, at this moment, Li Shimin suddenly remembered something and asked, By the way, my dear minister, how old is Shuyu? Where does she work? Chapter 32. Wei Zheng was slightly taken aback when he heard that. Li Shimin continued, "Speaking of which, Shuyu is about the same age as Qingqian, isn't he? I heard that you let him study Confucianism, and then he became a disciple of an eccentric?" "I am guilty." Li Shimin waved his hand. "That's enough. There's no need for that here. Today I brought some good wine. Let's talk while we drink?" "As you wish." The two of them landed. Wei Zheng hurriedly ordered people to gather the treasured dishes at home and cook some. But Li Shimin looked at the things on the table and felt a little emotional. It was too cold. Was he his official? Li Shimin couldn't help but feel a wave of sadness in his heart. "My dear official, do you know why I gave 2 decrees in a row?" Wei Zheng looked at Li Shimin personally pouring wine for him and hurriedly cupped his hands. "I don't know. First, I hope you take care of your health. I don't want to hear that you fall ill one day. Second, it's time for Shuyu to train. On one hand, he can earn some money. On the other hand, my daughter, Your Majesty." At this moment, Wei Zheng finally understood Li Shimin's intentions. He was going to grant a marriage. But Wei Zheng interrupted Li Shimin and immediately knelt down. "I'm afraid. How could my son deserve such a great favor? Your Majesty, please take back the decrees." Hearing that, Li Shimin smacked his lips twice. He didn't mention it again. He knew Wei Zheng's temper. If he continued to talk, this stubborn donkey would definitely fight to the death. After thinking about it, Li Shimin could only give up. However, Li Shimin looked at the dishes on the table and asked, "My dear official, I remember that your monthly allowance is about 10,000 coins, right? Why are you so short of money?" He had seen poor people. However, he had never seen anyone as poor as Wei Zheng. At this time, he wanted to find Wei Zheng for a drink. He also wanted to see what Wei Zheng's daily life was like. However, he never expected that after rummaging through his stomach, there would only be 3 dry goods on the table. A plate of dried bacon, a plate of dried tofu, and a plate of pickled vegetables. From this, it could be seen how poor Wei Zheng's daily life was. "Your Majesty, although my monthly salary is 10,000 coins, there have been a lot of people from the Long Yudao in Chang and city recently, so, alright, we understand. Didn't we send people to prepare porridge and make proper arrangements? Why did you—" "Forget it, I won't ask about this anymore. With Shuyu's help, you'll feel a little better. Also, you're the Lord Protector Zheng of the Tang dynasty. You're a face. Don't be so stingy when it comes to spending money. When it comes to providing relief to the disaster victims, just tell me in the future and I'll reimburse you. You must pay attention to your own image. If outsiders know about this, won't they say that I, Li Shimin, treat my loyal officials unfairly?" When Li Shimin put the blame on him, Wei Zheng's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly knelt down. Li Shimin persuaded him in every possible way. "Your Majesty, I'll remember it." Li Shimin took the initiative to change the topic again. He asked lightly, "My dear official, how many years has it been since we drank together like this?" Wei Zheng pondered for a moment and then said, "Never." "Do you know why we're able to figure it out today?" Wei Zheng shook his head in confusion. Li Shimin continued, "Perhaps you should know about it." As he spoke, Li Shimin raised his wine glass and clinked it with Wei Zheng's. With the embarrassment of drinking in Taiji Palace last time, Wei Zheng was very careful this time, but he still choked on the wine. After panting for a moment, he couldn't help but think of a person. Zhang Feng, the shopkeeper of the small tavern that he mentioned on the night of eating the worm pupa? Could it be that Your Majesty is talking about the shopkeeper of the small tavern, Zhang Feng? That's right. Today, we were indeed extremely annoyed and secretly left the palace. Not only this time, but we've also gone out many times with Zhang Sun and Yao Jin. If you know, you'll definitely say that we're not doing our job properly. However, the one who dealt with the locust plague and talked about it, as well as the Turkic snow disaster and the layout of the surrounding areas, was this shopkeeper. Buzz. Wei Zheng couldn't help but hear an explosion in his mind. Although he had guessed before, he didn't expect that all of this was guessed by this shopkeeper of the marketplace. How is this possible? Your Majesty, is this true? Wei Zheng was shocked. How could he not be shocked by such a thing? To be able to predict the locust plague in Longyu and the situation in the surrounding areas. Even the spies they had planted all year round didn't know about these things. How could a mere shopkeeper do this? Looking at the shocked Wei Zheng, Li Shimin couldn't help but feel pleased. At this moment he finally understood how pleased Zhang Feng felt when Zhang Feng talked about this. He couldn't help but reveal everything to Wei Zheng. Since he had chosen to believe in Wei Zheng, why not tell Wei Zheng everything in his heart? This would show how magnanimous I am. As time went by, 4 hours later, Li Shimin was drinking tea comfortably as he looked calmly at the confused Wei Zheng. My beloved subject, do you know that leaving the palace this time is also the third thing that we want to talk about? Your subject doesn't know. Haha. Li Shimin laughed heartily and then took out a bamboo tube from behind him as if it was a treasure. He said mysteriously, "My beloved subject, let me show you a treasure." Chapter 33. While they were talking, Li Shimin opened the cork of the bamboo tube and carefully took out the calligraphy that Zhang Feng gave him. When he saw the calligraphy, Wei Zheng was stunned. He was stunned. This was a great talent. A real genius. However, at this time, Wei Zheng wanted to know why such a talent would condescend and rather stay in the marketplace. Your Majesty, is this person the reincarnation of Zhuge Liang? Otherwise, is this really written by him? Wei Zheng was dumbfounded. Since ancient times, which one of the people who could write such an imposing thing was not a literary giant? Hearing this, Li Shimin shook his head slightly. We have also asked him the same question. Can you guess what he said? He said that he was a cultivator who had cultivated on Mount Wutai for 5,000 years. He came out of the mountain because he sensed that there was trouble in the mortal world. Moreover, he was the one who unified the 6 countries by the first emperor. Not only that, he also said that Zhuge Liang was his disciple. In the end, Li Shimin could not help laughing out loud. And Wei Zheng's expression was the same as his when he first heard this. Wei Zheng pondered for a moment and squeezed out 2 words. An expert. Your Majesty, I dare to invite this person to the secretarial department. If he is really like your Majesty, forget it. When Li Shimin heard this, he immediately became unhappy. What a joke. This person was a talent that he had reserved. How could he let others take advantage of him? My dear Minister, I know what you are thinking, but you also said that he is an expert. An expert has an expert's plan. Otherwise, why would I hide my identity and go to the tavern? Do you think I have nothing better to do? This person can only be determined when the time is right and he is willing to be an official. An expert has his pride. If we invite him, won't we be at a disadvantage? Li Shimin blocked Wei Zheng's words in one breath and then said again, well, today, it's done. I have to go back to the palace. When you are free, go to my Taiji palace more often and improve your food. Don't spoil yourself like this. While speaking, Li Shimin got up unsteadily and then left. After Li Shimin left, Wei Zheng could not help frowning slightly. This person is so clear about the world. He is either a descendant of Ziwei or a real talent. If such a talent can assist me, after 100 years, the Tang dynasty will have a successor. At the same time, in the palace, a beautiful woman in gorgeous clothes was sitting in Li Shimin's study with a fierce face. In front of her, Li Shimin's personal guards were trembling. I ask again, where is His Majesty? If you don't tell me, don't blame me for punishing you. Hearing that, the dozen people kneeling on the ground in the study involuntarily felt a chill. Your Majesty, I really don't know where His Majesty went. Maybe His Majesty went to drink with Lord Zhangsun because he was bored. I often see Lord Cheng and Lord Zhangsun secretly meeting His Majesty in the study. Maybe when His Majesty was bored, he must have. At this time, Empress Zhangsun was anxious. It had been 10 hours. She had almost turned the entire palace upside down, but she could not find His Majesty. Where on earth did His Majesty go? If people knew that His Majesty was missing, what would happen? Wouldn't the palace be in chaos? How could that be? More importantly, Zhangsun Wuji, Qing Yaojin, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui had not seen His Majesty. Then where could His Majesty go? Guards, pass on my decree. You have 2 hours. If you can't find His Majesty within 2 hours, seal off Chang in city immediately. Send out all the Imperial Guards and Jinwu Guards. You must find His Majesty before tonight. Yes. All of you better think carefully. His Majesty is fooling around. Don't tell me that all of you are going to do the same? If that's the case, the order in the palace will be better. Empress Xianxia was really angry. At this time, her almond-shaped eyes were filled with tears. She knew that His Majesty often sneaked out of the palace, but basically, he would come back in 3 to 4 hours. However, this time, he had been out for at least 10 hours. It was already 9 in the morning. Why hadn't he come back yet? If something happened to His Majesty, then Empress Xianxia didn't dare to think too much. She hurriedly issued a few more orders. At this moment, Tang Sun Wuji hurried to Taiji Palace. Empress, don't be impatient. Zhang Sun Wuji winked at Zhang Sun. Empress Zhang Sun seemed to understand something. She waved her hand and said, "Everyone leave. Find His Majesty immediately." After a while, everyone left. Only Zhang Sun Wuji and his sister were left in the study. At this time, Empress Zhang Sun showed her weak side. Brother, where do you think second brother has gone? It's already 9 in the morning. Why hasn't he come back yet? Zhang Sun Wuji's head was about to explode. When Empress Zhang Sun came to find him, he immediately inquired about the spies. Almost all the shops around Zhang Feng's tavern were opened by spies from the palace. After asking around, he found out that something had happened. The emperor had already left when the sun had set. What time was it? In these few hours, even an ant would be able to walk from the East Market to the Imperial Palace. Let alone His Majesty? And why didn't His Majesty's subordinates say anything? Could it be that something had really happened? Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but panic. He hurriedly went to the palace. At this time, seeing Empress Zhang Sun crying, Zhang Sun Wuji was helpless. Sister, don't cry. Don't cry, okay? I've sent people to secretly search Chang and city. Brother, His Majesty is messing around. Are you going to do the same? Tell me, every time His Majesty goes out of the palace, does he go drinking with you? This. Chapter 34. At this moment, the entire palace was in chaos. The entire imperial palace was brightly lit. Squads of imperial guards and chamberlains of imperial insignia were frantically searching for something. Even the guards of Chang and city were mobilized along the palace and near the city gates that extended to Chang and city. They were frantically searching for something. As the search continued, Empress Xianxia couldn't help but look more and more anxious. At this moment, Qing Yaojin, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and the others all hurried to Taiji Palace. Looking at the anxious Empress Xianxia, everyone looked at each other in dismay. Everyone knew that the emperor didn't go out to drink or go to a brothel. Instead, he went to Zhang Feng's tavern. However, wasn't this a little too long? Could it be that the emperor was drunk? Cheng Yaojin was puzzled. Old Hey, let me ask you. Last time you went to the tavern with the emperor, did the manager say anything in the end? Cheng Yaojin scratched the back of his head. He was a little confused by Zhang Sun Wuji and the others' words. Nothing. It's just... Oh, I remember. Cheng Yaojin slapped his thigh excitedly. The emperor, ancestor. Damn it. Keep your voice down, ancestor. Zhang Sun Wuji was about to cry. Zhang Sun, who was eavesdropping with her sharp ears, asked in a low voice, "What did he say?" The manager said that the next time we go there, we should treat the emperor to the strongest wine. That's it? That's it. Then, could it be that the emperor went to the tavern to drink because he was upset and got drunk in the end? They looked at each other and discussed. That's impossible. I got the news that the emperor has left, and it was at sunset. Where could the emperor have gone? Could it be that after His Majesty got drunk, his guards were scared, so they found a place for His Majesty to sleep? Everyone could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Fuizheng found out about this. Then, everyone, has anyone figured out where His Majesty has gone? Right at this moment, Empress Xianxia asked indifferently. Everyone shuddered again. Replying to the Empress, "We are slow-witted and do not know." "Then, what are you waiting for? Why are you carrying me?" Everyone was dumbfounded. Report. At this moment, a chamberlain of imperial insignia rushed into the imperial study. Zhang Sun Wuji took the opportunity to distract himself. He shouted, "What's the matter?" Replying to the Empress, "Sirs, the Emperor has been found." "What? *CK. Where is it? Where did the Emperor go? Where is it?" The chamberlain of imperial insignia was dumbfounded. At this moment, when he saw all the dukes taking a step forward in unison, he could not help but shudder all over. He hurriedly lay on the ground and said in a sobbing voice, replying to the Empress, "When I was patrolling, I saw the Emperor's sedan at Scenic Wind Gate, as well as the brothers of the Chamberlain of Imperial Insignia. After confirming the news, I immediately rushed over to report it. He's back. His Majesty is really back. That's great." Empress Xianxia finally heaved a sigh of relief. It had been a torturous night. She had been scared out of her wits, but at this moment, her stubbornness had also surfaced. She waved her hand and said, "Send someone to Scenic Wind Gate. I want to personally welcome His Majesty back to the palace." The Chamberlain of Imperial Insignia was stunned. He did not dare to agree. Instead, he looked at Zhang Sun Wuji and the others for help. Empress Xianxia snorted softly. Instantly, the Chamberlain of Imperial Insignia quivered. "As you command." Then he left as if he was running for his life. Empress Xianxia had always given people the impression that she was very kind and gentle. Who would have thought that such a gentle and kind woman would fly into a rage tonight? No one dared to act rashly. They could only follow the Empress's carriage to Scenic Wind Gate. However, after they left Taiji Palace, Zhang Sun Wuji secretly winked at a young eunuch. "Quickly inform His Majesty that the Empress has gone to Scenic Wind Gate." At the entrance of Scenic Wind Gate, Li Shimin sat in the sedan chair. He touched the bamboo tube in his arms and recalled everything that had happened today. From time to time, he would laugh loudly. He was pondering whether or not he should ask someone to record today's events in a book for future generations to read. This was also a kind of beautiful story. Not only would it strengthen his reputation of being a good person to others and his subjects, but it would also serve as a warning to future generations. However, at this moment, someone hurried to report. "Your Majesty, the young eunuch in the palace just reported that the Empress has personally gone to Scenic Wind Gate to welcome His Majesty. There are more than 10 officials with her." What? Li Shimin was shocked. The Empress had personally gone to Scenic Wind Gate to welcome him. And with so many officials? What was going on? At this moment, Li Shimin suddenly thought of something and asked, "What time is it now?" 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. It's over. How could it be so fast? Li Shimin slapped his forehead and hurriedly waved his hand. "Quickly, go to Scenic Wind Gate. If there's no other way, go to Scenic Wind Gate." However, at this moment, the sound of a male duck reached Li Shimin's ears. "The Empress has arrived." Chapter 35. As the voice sounded, Li Shimin couldn't avoid it. He could only embarrassedly pretend as if nothing had happened and continue walking forward. At this time, the two sides finally met in Jingfeng's sect. At this time, all the chamberlains suddenly felt a sense of danger. After seeing Empress Xianxia and the others, the chamberlains and the imperial guards who followed Li Shimin slipped away in the dark. Some ministers even stood at the outermost circle at this time. Empress Xianxia slowly stepped down from the carriage and leisurely walked to the front of Li Shimin's sedan chair. Giving a grand salute, she said, "This concubine, Tang, respectfully invites your Majesty." Li Shimin twitched the corner of his mouth. He also slowly got out of the sedan and laughed as if nothing had happened. "Empress, it's cold at night. Get into the carriage quickly. Don't catch a cold." While talking, Li Shimin walked to the carriage with Empress Xianxia in his arms. His right hand, which was holding Empress Xianxia, kept signaling Xianxia Wuji and the others behind him. Xianxia Wuji and the others understood and hurriedly shouted, "Your Majesty, return to the palace. Everyone, disperse now." In the palace, Empress Xiangxuan's almond-shaped eyes were misty. She looked at Li Shimin without saying a word, which made Li Shimin's scalp tingle. "Maid Guanyin, I've said that I really have something to do. How dare I blame your Majesty? Everything your Majesty has done is for the country and the people. Your Majesty, you don't have to care about me. Do what you have to do." That's not right. At first, Li Shimin praised Empress Xiangxia in his heart for being so righteous. But as he listened, the atmosphere changed. He hurriedly explained, "Maid Guanyin, I know you're angry with second brother, but do you know why I left the palace today?" "I don't know, nor do I know." As he spoke, Li Shimin told him everything about Zhang Feng. However, even so, Empress Xiangxia did not seem to have forgiven Li Shimin. She still pouted, lowered her head, and pulled at a sachet. At this moment, Li Shimin took out the bamboo tube from behind his back with great care, and said with a solemn voice, "Today, I left the palace. It was also that shopkeeper who bestowed me with a family heirloom." While speaking, Li Shimin couldn't help but laugh. Empress Xiangxia looked at the bamboo tube in Li Shimin's hand with a trace of doubt in her eyes. Along the way, Li Shimin had been holding the bamboo tube with extreme caution. Now, he was saying that someone had bestowed this treasure to him? This? Li Shimin was secretly delighted when he saw Empress Xiangxuan's expression. He quickly unfolded the calligraphy and said, "Guanyin maid, look. This is the family heirloom of our great Tang clan, and it was something that I, your second brother, painstakingly begged for." Empress Xiangxuan's eyes suddenly widened. She got up in disbelief and looked at the calligraphy in Li Shimin's hand. Second brother said it was a family heirloom twice. Could it be that his calligraphy was better than preface to the Orchid Pavilion written by Wang Shiji, the master of calligraphy? And what was even more exaggerated was that second brother, the emperor of a country, actually begged for it. Thinking of this, Empress Xiangxia, holding the lamp, stared at the calligraphy in Li Shimin's hand and carefully observed it. The calligraphy was very ordinary and could not be said to be the work of a master. However, the vigor between the lines showed that it was quite beautiful. And the paper of this calligraphy was extremely ordinary and there was nothing outstanding about it. It was not like the calligraphy of a master or a great writer. Anthologies were made of the most precious paper, the most precious axis, and the wrapping paste. They were treated with care. On the contrary, this calligraphy was casually written by a calligraphy master on the street and then casually put it in a bamboo tube. This kind of rough preservation and production did not look like a masterpiece handed down from generation to generation. She couldn't help but. Empress Xiangxia carefully observed the meaning of the words. Second brother treasured it so much. Apart from the production, there was only the most important content left. When Empress Xiangxia carefully looked at it, her expression changed. She couldn't help but carefully evaluate it. The next moment, Empress Xiangxia couldn't help exclaiming in surprise, "God! Second brother, this calligraphy is written about you and Wei Zheng?" "Yes." Li Shimin flipped his hair coquettishly and told the cause and effect of the matter again in detail. Seeing that Empress Xiangxuan's anger seemed to have subsided, Li Shimin also gradually relaxed and began to discuss the matter of Zhang Feng with Empress Xiangxia. "Second brother, since you said that this person is so virtuous, why don't you give him an official position? Instead, you continue to hide your identity? No hurry. It's not the right time yet." How could Li Shimin not want to? But he was not ready yet. He knew that Zhang Feng was not ready either. Although he didn't know why Zhang Feng still wanted to stay there, he knew that Zhang Feng would never stay in the small tavern for the rest of his life. After chatting for a while, Empress Xiangxia grabbed Li Shimin's hand. "Second brother, this calligraphy does have the function of warning the future generations. I think that hanging the original in the political announcement hall and copying the copies and giving them to the officials is also a warning to everyone. What do you think?" Hearing this, Li Shimin thought seriously. This is indeed the right thing to do. Well, second brother, let's talk about business now. I heard from them that you left the tavern at sunset. After that, where did you go? How are you going to deal with the matter of Wei Jing? Chapter 36. Li Shimin thought that after saying these things, it would be enough to appease Guanyin. But he didn't expect that. Guanyin's thoughts were on this. He couldn't help it. Li Shimin was also depressed. Empress Xianxia held Li Shimin's hand with a solemn expression and said, "Second brother, although Wei Jing has a bad temper, you know what kind of person he is. If at this time, all the officials in the world are watching your every move, if you really persuade Wei Jing to leave, then I shouldn't have said this, but after knowing that you were not in the palace for a few hours, I found out about this. Although I know you are upset, you can't lose this person." Li Shimin shook his head with a bitter smile. Listen to me. Today, I went out because of Wei Zheng's matter. You have seen the calligraphy and painting. What do you think I will do? Today, in addition to the calligraphy, I have also received a wise saying. Use the bronze as a mirror, tidy up one's clothes, and use the people as a mirror to see the gains and losses. Use history as a mirror to see the rise and fall of the people. Empress Xianxia was shocked when she heard this. Especially after Li Shimin said, use the bronze as a mirror, tidy up one's clothes. Empress Xianxia was shocked. Who on earth was this little shopkeeper? Could it be that he was a literary star in the sky? First, he calculated the locust plague and the Turkic snow disaster, and then the surrounding situation. Now he could say something like this. However, Li Shimin touched the back of Empress Xiangxuan's hand and said again, actually, when the little shopkeeper said this, I knew what to do. Then, I hurriedly left the tavern and went to Wei Zheng's mansion. Your Majesty went to Wei Zheng's mansion? Knowing one's mistakes and being able to correct them is the greatest virtue. Moreover, we also know the severity of this matter. Otherwise, we wouldn't be so conflicted and anxious today. Therefore, can you guess what I said to Wei Jing tonight? I said that I wanted to marry the little princess to that child Shuyu, but that old antique Wei Jing actually rejected me on the spot. At this point, Li Shimin shook his head with a bitter smile. Empress Xiangxia also covered her mouth and chuckled. Too rigid. Isn't that right? Li Shimin smiled helplessly. Not only that, can you guess what was the dish that went with this emperor's wine? It was Wei Zheng who had racked his brains and collected a few dry goods. This made me feel uneasy. Therefore, this Zhen decreed for Shuyu to report to the Jin Wu guards tomorrow. This Zhen will announce to the court that he will be promoted to a squad leader. This way, he will be able to help Wei Zheng. The two of them were so engrossed in their conversation that they had forgotten the time. As the two of them talked, the last of Zhang Xuan's worries disappeared. Second brother, what do you plan to do about the Longyu circuit? At this time, do you think it will be effective if we use the previous method on a large scale? Li Shimin hesitated. I know that I am also hesitating about this matter. May I know what Guanyin Maid thinks? Although Li Shimin had already made up his mind, he still wanted to hear Guanyin Maid's opinion. This matter is of great importance. Moreover, Tubo, Tuyuhun, and the Turkic Khaganate are all watching every move in Chang'an City. Although second brother has tried his best to cover up the drought and solve the epidemic, this is only treating the symptoms and not the root cause. Moreover, the Tuyuhun and the Tibetans still don't know about the plague of locusts. If they make such a large move, the three kingdoms will definitely learn of this matter. At that time, the great Tang will be at a disadvantage. Then what do you think, Guanyin Maid? In my opinion, we should gather all the chickens, ducks, poultry, and pigs in Longyu Dao. Second brother should follow the little shopkeeper's method and try it out first. If it works, it won't be too late to plan the next step. Besides, the outbreak of this locust plague is not something that can happen in a short period of time. Li Shimin could not help but look serious. I actually had this plan after the court ended today, but I couldn't make up my mind. I didn't expect Guanyin Maid to have the same idea as me. Then I can go ahead and do it. It's not today. It should be yesterday. Empress Xianxia speechlessly pointed to the eastern sky outside the window and said. Li Shimin was stunned. He was also shocked. How long had it been? It was dawn? Li Shimin shrugged. It did not matter. Empress Xianxia hugged Empress Xianxia and said, let's watch the morning sun together. We haven't watched the morning sun like this for a long time. While talking, the two of them held hands and walked to the balcony of the attic without saying a word. They sat quietly on the ground and looked at the eastern sky and the peaceful and quiet Chang city at this time. Just like that, the sky turned from a dawn to a dazzling sun, slowly climbing up the big wild goose tower in Chang. At this time, the heavy sound of the bell also rang. Don't. As the morning bell rang, the entire Chang city was completely bright. Wisps of smoke appeared above all the houses and swirled around. Li Shimin got up and said reluctantly, Guanyin maid, I'm going to the court. Chapter 37. In the political announcement hall. All the officials had already arrived. At this time, they were all talking about what happened yesterday. Lord Sun, do you know that His Majesty left the palace last night? You know it too? Last night, Her Majesty the Empress was very angry. I don't know. His Majesty left the palace for, what else could it be? For that person. While they were talking, they glanced at Wei Jing from time to time, and then they couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. Alas! What a pity! Lord Protector Zheng's action may have really angered His Majesty. From now on, we have to be careful with our words and actions. The Emperor's power is unpredictable. I guess Lord Protector Zheng might, alas. At this time, except for a few officials who knew about this matter, all the officials fell out with each other. As the person in charge of this matter, Wei Jing closed his eyes and took a nap. Brother Fong, what's going on? Cheng Yaojin couldn't sit still. He wanted to ask Wei Jing. Wei Jing ignored him. He couldn't help but go to Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui. Fang Xianling patted Cheng Yaojin on the shoulder. Oh hey. You'll know when His Majesty comes. What's going on? Wei Jing, what's going on? Say something. Do you want me to help you beat up these people? Cheng Yaojin was so anxious that he could only scratch his head. He really couldn't understand why everyone was so mysterious. Wei Jing finally opened his eyes and glanced at Cheng Yaojin. But the two words he said made Cheng Yaojin spit out blood. Calm down. His Majesty has arrived. At this time, the little eunuchs were singing. Everyone hurriedly shut up and then shouted in unison, Long live His Majesty. While they were talking, Li Shimin walked with majestic steps and appeared in front of the dragon throne in the political announcement hall in a good mood. My beloved subjects, rise. For today's morning court session, I will only announce two things. Wei Jing, the Duke of Zheng. While speaking, the atmosphere of the hall changed tremendously at that instant. Everyone looked at Wei Jing nervously. However, Wei Zheng's expression remained unchanged as he took a step forward. This old subject is here. Wei Jing, the Minister of the Secretariat, is an upright and plain-spoken man. He dares to speak his mind, which is the fortune of the Tang dynasty. Such loyalty, such a loyal minister, you are truly the right-hand man of the Tang dynasty. Therefore, today, I issue an edict. Li Shimin's dignified voice suddenly paused, and everyone in the political announcement hall was in an uproar. I declare. He ordered Minister Wei Zheng of the Secretarial Directorate to review any documents without anyone's permission. From the top secret reports to the lowest common imperial edicts, Wei Zheng could personally review them. In short, the imperial authority will grant you special permission. Buzz. Everyone was aghast. What did the emperor announce? This was really below one person and above thousands of people. He could review any imperial edicts and memorials at will. God, what on earth did the emperor experience in one night? At this time, although Zhang Sun Wuji and the others had a vague guess in their hearts, they did not expect the emperor to make such an announcement. He was actually entrusted with such an important task. At this time, Li Shimin looked at Wei Zheng majestically. Wei Zheng, do you have any objections? Although Wei Zheng heard it for the second time. But this time he was still deeply shocked. He took a deep breath. Wei Zheng knelt on the ground. This old subject, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will definitely not disappoint the emperor. This subject thanks your majesty for your kindness. Good. Li Shimin waved his hand. He shouted, announce the edict. Wei Shuyu, today, is personally appointed as the captain of the cavalry of the right wing of the Jinwu Guards. Do you have any objections to the above two matters? He finished in one breath. Li Shimin looked down at the crowd and asked lightly. At this time, everyone was really shocked. The Jinwu Guards, that was the elite of the elites of the Tang dynasty. To be able to enter the Jinwu Guards, one had to train at the border for at least 3 years, and this was just an entry permit. The qualification to enter was to kill at least 100 foreign enemy troops, or 10 generals. Not only that, they had to be people with clear backgrounds to be qualified to be in the army. But, a captain. Don't underestimate a captain. To be qualified to be a squad leader, one must kill at least 300 enemy generals, excluding squad leaders and above, to be qualified to be a squad leader. This Wei Shu, just because of a sentence from the emperor. She became a captain of the right wing of the Jinwu Guards? This everyone was aghast. Although there were hundreds of officials. But, their children, who could enter the Jinwu Guards, could be counted with 10 fingers. What did this mean? This meant that the emperor wanted to promote Wei Zheng. How could anyone have any objections? Everyone shouted in unison, the emperor is wise. Good. Since there are no objections, the court is dismissed. With a wave of his hand, Li Shimin left in a hurry. And the officials also left one after another in Wei Zheng's congratulations. But at this time, everyone had different thoughts. Duke Zheng, are you free tonight? Let's have a few drinks? At this time, Fang Xianling put his arm around Wei Zheng's shoulder and said. Wei Zheng looked at Qing Yaojin and the others and smiled slightly. He was worried that he couldn't find them. Now it was good. They came to him. Let's go. Why wait until tonight? Now I'll treat you to a drink. Chapter 38. Lai Feng Brothel. The largest restaurant in Chang'an City. At this time, the most expensive private room on the second floor of Lai Feng Brothel had been booked by Wei Zheng himself. Although he really didn't have any money, in order to solve the mystery in his heart, he borrowed 500 taels of silver from the emperor last night. This could be considered as an excuse for him to reject the marriage because he didn't want to owe the emperor too much. At this time, in the summer hall on the second floor of Lai Feng Brothel, Wei Zheng raised his wine cup and said with a bright smile, Come, 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 everyone. Let's raise this cup together. Let's celebrate the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. After drinking, everyone looked at the dishes on the table and frowned. Although there were only Qing Yaojin, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Zhang Sun Wuji on the table at this time, the dishes were too bad, weren't they? This Lai Feng brothel looked high-end, but they only served braised tofu and stir-fried meat with bamboo shoots. Was it appropriate? Was it appropriate? However, everyone also knew that Wei Zheng was a stingy person. If Wei Zheng was willing to pay for a meal, it must be something important. After 3 rounds of wine, Wei Zheng approached Qing Yaojin with a red face. Brother Yujin, I want to ask you something. Here it comes. It's finally here. Everyone couldn't help but pricked up their ears and listened quietly. Last night, I heard the emperor praising the little brother named Zhang Feng. I also know that brother Yaojin and Zhang Sun accompanied the emperor out of the palace and saw this person. I want to ask, who is this person? Understood. He wanted to ask about Zhang Feng. Cheng Yaodan patted Wei Zheng on the shoulder. Hey, I thought it was something important. This is it. You've asked the right person. Speaking of which, shopkeeper Little Zhang is not only a man of striking appearance, he's also a genius. Can you guess how brother Little Zhang found out about the locust plague? Everyone could not help but be curious. With a wave of his hand, Qing Yaojin picked up the wine jug and gulped down a few mouthfuls of wine. He smacked his lips and said, "Brother little Zhang guessed." Teeth. I say, Blackie, can't you come up with something more reliable? I've always been curious. How did a small shopkeeper find out about the news after it was sealed? Fong Xianling asked as he stroked his white beard. We only found out about this after paying a huge price. How did he find out about it? Could it be that he's proficient in divination? Wrong. Cheng Yaojin was in high spirits. It was rare for him to be so pretentious. About that? It was a long story. You didn't see the scene at that time. Shopkeeper Zhang Jr.'s mouth. Stop clucking and spit it out. Seeing Cheng Yaojin pick up the wine jug and gulp it down, Wei Jing snatched it from him. Cheng Yaojin smacked his lips and shook his head. It's still not as good as shopkeeper Zhang Jr.'s wine. Let's cut the crap. Listen up. Cheng Yaojin's face flushed red. He looked around with his leopard eyes. Take a guess. How did His Majesty look at that time? That guy's mouth. His Majesty and I were both shocked. Do you know? Shopkeeper Zhang Jr. only found out about it from the subtle details in the market. What? Impossible. Even if he has eyes and ears, Longyu Road is at least 1,000 miles away from Chang'an City. How did he know about the drought? And we tried our best to cover it up. Very few people know about it. Besides, how could he find out about it from the market? Are you trying to trick us? Oh, hey? Everyone was shocked. They had the same expression as Li Shimin and Cheng Yaojin when they heard the news. How could there be such a thing? At this moment, Zhang Feng's identity became increasingly mysterious in the hearts of the crowd. What kind of talent would have such wisdom? But you're wrong. Cheng Yaojin mysteriously interrupted the crowd while they were letting their imaginations run wild. Brother Zhang Feng was able to accurately guess all of this just by comparing the prices of the products from the north and south, as well as the quantity. Hiss. *CK. How? How is that possible? Everyone was shocked again. He could predict the drought from the market prices. What kind of genius was that? But that was not enough to prove his talent. Wei Jing pondered for a while and carefully sorted out Cheng Yaojin's words. He said, Hey, although everything you said can indeed prove this point, how did Brother Zhang Feng know about the locust plague? He's just a market owner. Firstly, he has a powerful master to teach him. Secondly, he's not a Taoist or Confucian expert. How did he know about the locust plague? Hey, this is a serious matter. You have to think about it carefully. Think about it carefully. How did Zhang Feng know about the locust plague? Everyone's expression could not help but become solemn. Cheng Yaojin was stunned. He hiccuped. Do I even need to think about it carefully? This matter was originally guessed by the little shopkeeper from these things and natural phenomena. Chapter 39. Everyone was aghast again. Is this all from observation? How can he observe? This place is more than thousands of miles away from Longyu Dao, Tuyuhun and Tubo. Can he really fly? Even a master of feng shui or a powerful figure from the Ministry of Agriculture can't deduce all this just from looking at the world, can they? There's something fishy about this matter. Well, hey, he does have a lot of things that we may not know about, but can you tell us in detail what you talked about that day? Fong Xuanling's face was solemn. Fine. As long as you give me 3 more jars of wine, I promise to tell you everything I know. Cheng Yaojin took the opportunity to say. Wei Zheng's face darkened. This is my money. But Wei Zheng gritted his teeth and closed his eyes. He waved his hand and ordered 10 jars of wine. After Cheng Yaojin took a big gulp of wine, he narrated everything from when he first entered the house to when he finally left. He either added some details or cut out a large part of the story and narrated it at length. The current emperor? He's the emperor of all ages. Chang'an City and Longyu Dao's specialty products have sharply decreased. Longyu Dao's people suddenly surged in Chang'an City. Of course, there's also the current situation of the Tang dynasty and the surrounding areas. What will happen if there's a war? So on and so forth. He narrated everything word for word. And when he finished his last word, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. Everyone in the hall had their mouths wide open as they stared at Qingyang, dumbfounded. Damn, he's really a talent. God bless the Tang dynasty. God bless the Tang dynasty. But everyone couldn't understand at this time. Why would such a peerless genius be willing to be a small shopkeeper in the marketplace? Everyone was dumbfounded. Their worldview was ruined. Does this mean that there are as many talents as dogs in the Tang dynasty? Or could it be that this kind of peerless genius all had the quirks of a hermit? No matter what, at this moment, from the mouth of the emperor and the words of the crowd, coupled with Cheng Yaojin's confession, everyone finally had a clear understanding of Zhang Feng's situation. Or even, at this time, everyone had an urge to go to the tavern to find out what was going on. But Cheng Yaojin was not stupid. He was also envious of such a talent. How could he reveal this person's detailed address? Moreover, how could he not know that these old fellows already had the heart to cherish talent? None of them were fools. Such a talent would definitely soar one day. But if he took him under his wing first, then, being the shopkeeper of a small tavern, wasn't that bullying? Wasn't this a waste of talent? Wouldn't it be better for him to work in any department? With this thought in mind, Wei Jing looked around. More than a dozen jars of wine had already been emptied. At this time, he was a little complacent. Although he drank good wine with the emperor last night, it was said that Zhang Feng brewed it himself. However, there were too few of them. And he drank with the emperor, who could taste it in detail. At this time, Wei Jing smacked his lips twice. All of a sudden, Du Ruhui asked lightly, "Old Wei, after saying so much, it's time to explain your matter, right? Why did the emperor issue such an edict in the morning court today? And your expression at that time seemed to indicate that you had already heard about it, right? Also, did the emperor go to your mansion last night? Yesterday, the emperor went to the tavern for a few hours. The emperor should have told you about it, right?" Zhang Sun Wuji said slowly. "That's right. Last night, at nightfall, His Majesty did go to my residence. But do you know what His Majesty said in my residence last night? Except for my matter." "What matter?" "Last night, the emperor seemed to be in a good mood at Jingfeng sect. Did the shopkeeper say something to the emperor last night?" But you're wrong." Wei Jing smacked his lips and said mysteriously, "Last night, the emperor took out something. That thing is so valuable that even the emperor regards it as a treasure. And he intends to keep it as an heirloom." Hiss! Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This time they were really shocked. An heirloom? What could it be? And it was from a shopkeeper? Suddenly, Zhang Sun Wuji slapped his thigh and said, "Could it be that bamboo tube? I remember. Last night, do you remember the bamboo tube in the emperor's hand? The one that never left his side? God! I remember it too. Could it be that the thing in the bamboo tube was given to the emperor by Zhang Feng?" Everyone finally recalled the scene they had seen at Scenic Wind's sect last night. Seeing this, Wei Jing said. He said again without stopping until he was shocked, "That's right. That's it. Take a guess, what do you think is inside?" How could anyone guess it? They couldn't help but feel anxious. "What is it? Tell us quickly. I'm so anxious." "Old Wei, tell us quickly." Wei Jing straightened his back and said mysteriously, "That is a piece of calligraphy that the emperor asked Zhang Feng for." Boom. Chapter 40. A treasure of calligraphy. And it was a treasure of calligraphy requested by the emperor. How was that possible? The emperor was indeed obsessed with treasures of calligraphy. So was everyone else. However, for a small shopkeeper to be able to talk about such a major event, it could only mean that he was indeed very talented. But it was not to the extent that his calligraphy could surpass all the current calligraphy masters, right? Everyone did not know that before. But now, after everyone gathered together, they started to talk about the whole matter, making Zhang Feng more and more mysterious. Everyone still could not understand. What kind of treasure of calligraphy did Zhang Feng have? Feng Xianling, who loved treasures of calligraphy, could not help but grab Wei Zheng's hand and said excitedly, "Old Wei, tell us, what kind of treasure of calligraphy is it?" Wei Jing felt extremely comfortable at this moment. He finally felt the state where everyone longed for him. Although this treasure of calligraphy is not the work of any master, nor is it the descendant of any famous master, nor is it exquisitely mounted, nor does it have a gorgeous title, the content of this treasure of calligraphy is priceless. Even I was shocked for a long time after seeing this treasure of calligraphy for the first time. In fact, it is just a piece of ordinary calligraphy, just like the people who sell couplets on the street. Even the paper is the kind that is commonly seen in the market. But the content of this calligraphy, don't beat around the bush, just say it. Say it. Today's meal is on me. Son, serve the wine and dishes. Serve the dishes. Hearing that, Wei Zheng's eyes lit up and he said lightly, "Thank you, brother Zhangsun. Since you want to serve, let's just serve the best." Zhangsun Wuji's face darkened when he heard that. But there was nothing he could do. Who asked Wei Zheng to be so good at seducing people? A moment later, the messy table was completely replaced with the best dishes. At this moment, Wei Zheng held the wine glass and said while shaking his head, "The content of this calligraphy is very short, but you all remember it. I guarantee that all of you will be treated as family heirlooms." His Majesty also said last night that he would copy it and pass it on to everyone in the near future. Wei Jing no longer procrastinated and explained the contents of the calligraphy in its entirety. Especially the last word, beg. Wei Jing finally couldn't hold back his laughter and said, "I'm really curious about the emperor's expression when he saw these words yesterday." As the ruler of a country, he actually used the word, beg. If others were to see this, wouldn't he become a laughingstock? But this time, I'm on the emperor's side. This piece of calligraphy, what do you all think? Is it suitable to be a family heirloom? Family heirloom? Was it suitable? F***ck. It was enough to serve as a warning to the world. Everyone was shocked once again. Although no one saw the words, they could guess the meaning of the words from Wei Zheng's description. At this moment, Wei Jing smiled emotionally. F***c, do you know that the emperor almost dismissed me yesterday? Zhangsun Wuji sighed and said, "We all know. The whole Chang and city knows about what happened in the morning court yesterday. Do you think we don't know? We planned to go to you last night and ask you to give in or beg the empress, but we saw the emperor go to your mansion. Not only that, we also saw what happened at the gate of your mansion. So, we finally felt relieved. But, why did the emperor change his mind?" Everyone couldn't help but be more curious. A piece of calligraphy. Although they could see some things, it was not the key to the emperor's change of mind. It was impossible to say that the emperor suddenly changed his mind. Everyone was a wily old fox who didn't know the emperor's temper. However, since Zhang Feng appeared, they increasingly couldn't understand Li Shimin. Yes, you're right. This is not the key to the emperor's change of mind. It was Zhang Feng that made the emperor change his mind. His words allowed His Majesty to open up a new path of speech for the first time. Although the emperor did say that he wanted to open the way to the public, the effect was not good. But, you saw this morning that the emperor actually announced this in the political announcement hall. What does this mean? This means that the emperor has made up his mind to open the way to the public. The reason for this is that Wei Zheng's expression turned solemn. He said with the kind of solemnity and respect that he had never shown before. Using bronze as a mirror, correct the close. Using people as a mirror, understand the gains and losses. Using history as a mirror, understand the rise and fall. When Wei Zheng's voice fell, in everyone's mind, it was like thousands of gongs were ringing at the same time. It madly stirred up monstrous waves. Every word, every sentence, made everyone's heart unable to calm down for a long time. At this time, Wei Zheng's feeling was getting stronger and stronger. He was eager to see Zhang Feng and take Zhang Feng as his subordinate. In the future, the secretarial department would definitely become the first department in the Tang dynasty because of Zhang Feng. And he also believed that if Zhang Feng could come to the secretarial department, then Wei Zheng couldn't help but reveal his ultimate purpose. Cheng Weizi, where is brother Zhang Feng? How could everyone not know Wei Zheng's plan? Seeing his fox tail raised, everyone hurriedly covered Qing Yaojin's mouth and said eagerly, "I don't know. No comment. Goodbye." Chapter 41. At this time, just as everyone was scrambling to find Zhang Feng, a voice rang out. Zhang Feng was bored out of his mind. He sat in the shop and wondered if he should do something in the future. Now, the Tang dynasty had just entered the beginning of the Zhenguan rule, and this year was also the most critical year. If this year, the Tang dynasty could solve the drought and the locust plague in a short time, then the Tang dynasty was destined to enter the stage of skyrocketing. The reason why he told Lao Li about the locust plague and the surrounding situation was that, on the one hand, he was too damn lonely. He could brag to someone he liked. More importantly, as he said before, if he could attract Li Shimin's attention, when the time came, his system would be activated, and it would really be like adding wings to a tiger. However, after his observation in the past few days, it seemed, except that after that night, this matter slowly seemed to be suppressed. He thought about it. Zhang Feng also felt relieved. After all, Lao Li's strength was limited. Although he didn't know how his family business was, it was certainly not comparable to the government in Chang'an City. People nowadays paid attention to borrowing ancient books, combining the methods recorded in ancient books to deal with the drought and locust plague. His method was a modern thing. How could there be such a thing in history? Even if there was, it was after the middle of the Tang dynasty. Alas, there is still a long way to go. At the thought of this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but sigh. This damn system, if it weren't for this system, he would have soared to the top by now. With the help of this locust plague and Li Shimin's unprecedented announcement to the world today, he really got rid of the gap between him and Wei Zheng. This made Zhang Feng a little confused about Lao Li. You could say that he was a businessman. But this guy was always on the verge of death, constantly testing and rubbing against each other. He always asked about things that would cost him his life. Now, this matter was brought to the top again? Zhang Feng was a little doubtful. But he wasn't sure if Li Shimin had figured it out himself. After all, beside Li Shimin, in addition to Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui, there was also Wei Zheng, the three major strategists, the think tank. Behind him, there was also Empress Xianxia, who left a strong mark in the history books. Although this person was a woman and was usually very kind, she was a woman. But who would have thought that most of Li Shimin's decisions were the result of discussions with Empress Xianxia at night? Li Shimin was able to understand and put Wei Zheng in an important position. Zhang Feng didn't have anything to do with Lao Li at all. In his eyes, these two people were the kind of existence where one was in the sky and the other was in the water. Even if these two people were standing hand in hand in front of Zhang Feng, he would feel that either he was drunk or these two were drunk. Otherwise, how could this be possible? Zhang Feng shook his head and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Then, his thoughts once again focused on the system. He was very curious. This thing, after it was activated, what kind of system would it be? Would it be the kind of chivalrous system? Or the kind that would beat up the whole world the moment it was activated? Or the richest person? Sigh. Damn system. Zhang Feng sighed speechlessly. Then, he turned around and lay down on the recliner under the counter, snoring loudly. On the other side, in the imperial study of Taiji Palace, Li Shimin was flipping through the memorials one by one. He was dealing with the documents one by one. During this period, the drought in Longyu Road was really serious, just as Zhang Feng said. In fact, there was a shortage of water in many places. The entire Longyu Road had sent at least 110,000 soldiers to fight the drought. However, the results were not very good. Not only that, but the locust eggs in the ground had also increased for some reason. Li Shimin couldn't help but think of Zhang Feng again. Your Majesty! Your Majesty, urgent report! At this moment, a secret agent rushed into the imperial study and handed a small bamboo joint to Li Shimin. Li Shimin was shocked. What's the matter? At the border of Longyu Road, a large number of Tuyuhun refugees have crossed Qilian Mountain and appeared in the territory of the Tang dynasty. It seems that the disaster in Tuyuhun has become serious. Reporting. At this moment, Another report was heard once again. Li Shimin waved his hand. Speak. Your Majesty. In the direction of Tubo, a large number of people wearing tattered clothes like skeletons are attacking our border guards. What? Li Shimin was shocked. It had changed. Could it be that what Zhang Feng said was true? That the disaster in Tubo and Tuyuhun was so serious that it had gone out of control? At this thought, Li Shimin hurriedly asked, "Then, is there anything unusual in the direction of the Tujue?" The direction of the Tujue is not clear for now. However, 5 days ago, the number of soldiers guarding the border increased inexplicably, especially in the direction of Yuzhou. There is a small-scale riot. What? Li Shimin was shocked. Could it be that the disaster in the neighboring countries had really broken out? If so, Li Shimin's expression turned serious. He hurriedly said, "Summon Zhangsun Wuji, Xingyang, Li Jing, and the others to come to the palace immediately." Chapter 42. For 7 days in a row, Li Shimin had been dealing with the border issues, as well as the Turks and Tubo Tuyuhun. It seemed that these issues had nothing to do with the Tang dynasty at this time. But what was the actual situation? If the drought really broke out to the point of no return, then the industries of the Tang dynasty would definitely be affected. This was not a locust plague. What if the locust plague broke out again? Then the consequences. Second brother, are you worried about the border issues again? Darkness. It gradually enveloped the imperial study. At this moment, Empress Zhangsun held an oil lamp and gently appeared behind Li Shimin. Second brother? Empress Zhangsun lit the oil lamp in the study and looked at the depressed Li Shimin with a worried face. Li Shimin shook his head slightly, then turned around and grabbed Empress Zhangsun's small hand. Maid Guanyin, I know, but I feel that second brother should take things slowly. Although brother Zhang Feng is right, he may have exaggerated. Think about it, Tubo and Tuyuhun must be thinking about how to cover up this matter. After all, this is not a glorious matter, and maybe Tuyuhun and the Turks are also dealing with this matter. Li Shimin's eyes flashed. So, Maid Guanyin, you mean to wait and see? Empress Zhangsun pulled Li Shimin to sit on the dragon throne, then gently massaged his shoulders and said, "That's right. By the way, have you tried Brother Zhang's method? Is it effective?" It is effective, but you also know that it is not easy to spread this matter. So, I did not tell anyone about this matter. This matter is only tested on a small scale. To be honest, I really hope that this locust plague is a joke. And Maid Guanyin, do you know? At that time, I almost announced that I would take action according to the shopkeeper's method, but you also know that if outsiders know about this, the consequences will be unimaginable. Li Shimin sighed. He knew about the locust plague in Longyu Circuit. He also knew that there were hundreds of thousands of chickens and ducks in Longyu Circuit dealing with the locust plague. However, he had really underestimated this drought. Basically, at least 100 chickens and ducks were lost every day. He also knew that he only needed to issue an imperial edict to resolve this matter. But he couldn't. He was the emperor. Behind him were the people of the entire Tang dynasty. If he really did that, then the drought in the Tang dynasty could no longer be concealed. Not only that, the plague of locusts would also surface. At that time, what would happen? He didn't want to see that kind of ending. They didn't want to see the Tang dynasty either. He had no time. The Tang dynasty didn't have the time either. He only needed 1 year. The Tang dynasty only needed a year to reorganize itself. In the imperial study, it was quiet again. Li Shimin lowered his head in deep thought, and so did Empress Zhangsun. Outside the imperial study, night had already shrouded the entire Chang'an city. However, all the offices in Chang'an city were still brightly lit. The secretaries of the 3 provinces and 6 ministries were working overtime to deal with all kinds of matters at this time. In the secretaries of the department, Wei Zheng was so busy that his beard and hair were almost sticking together. In front of him, stacks of thick books were casually thrown on the ground. Longyu Circuit documents? Present them. Longyu Circuit urgently needs 100,000 dawn of grain. Longyu Circuit sent an urgent document. A large number of deep wells in Shazhou, Ganzhou, and other places have no water. Urgent request. Looking at the urgent documents, everyone was aghast. Wei Zheng was also shocked. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone, put down all the things that you can put down. We must deal with all the matters of Longyu Circuit by tonight." As he spoke, Wei Zheng hurried out. "I'll go to the emperor to make a decision on this matter." On the other side, the people of the 3 provinces and 6 ministries, including the Minister of Xianxia, the Secretariat, the Ministry of Minxia, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Works, were all facing the same problem. Zhang Sun Wuji and the others were also shocked at this time. Carrying many urgent documents, he rushed to the Taiji Palace. This matter was too big. If it was not handled properly, the consequences would be extremely serious. If the matter was not handled properly, then the drought of the Tang dynasty would be known by outsiders, then everything would be over. Outside Taiji Palace, everyone met again. But this time, no one said anything. Everyone's faces were full of fatigue. Even their eyes were bloodshot. At this time, although no one said anything, the fact that they were here at this time meant that they had encountered the same problem. Everyone followed the eunuch's guidance and hurried to the door of the imperial study. Wei Jing, Zhang Sun Wuji, Qing Yaojin, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui request an audience with His Majesty. Urgent report from Longyu Circuit. Urgent report from the border of Tubo. There seems to be a riot in Tuyuhun. As everyone reported. In the imperial study, after a moment of silence, Li Shimin's weary voice sounded. Enter. Chapter 43. Greetings, Your Majesty. Your Majesty. They entered the imperial study. Everyone looked solemn. But when they saw Empress Xianxia, they quickly saluted. Although they were very casual in the imperial study, they had to be well behaved in the presence of the Empress. Empress Xianxia waved her hand lightly and motioned for everyone to get up. Your Majesty, I'll take my leave. Empress Xianxia hurriedly left as she spoke. Then everyone hurriedly told Li Shimin all the news they had received earlier. Li Shimin's head was about to explode. But at this moment, he had to force himself to stay alert. What do you think we should do about this? Should we send troops or wait and see? Wei Zheng, tell me your opinion. Wei Zheng heard this, pondered for a moment, and said, Your Majesty, I think the best way now is to deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. Now our first thing is to solve the problem of water shortage in Longyu Road. As for the Tubo and Tuyuhun matter, it's an outsider's business and has nothing to do with us. It's best if they're all dead. Now, the nearest water source to Longyu Road is on Mount Qilian, but it's too far away, so I don't know how to cut it off. Li Shimin was shocked. The water in the entire Longyu Road was gone. Then, are there any other water sources? Your Majesty, the other water sources are almost dry. At this time, only Qilian Lake under Mount Qilian has water. Wei Zheng said quickly, even the main water sources in Liangzhou, Shazhou, and Ganzhou are almost dry. Li Shimin was shocked. Almost dry. Except for Mount Qilian. How to solve this? Do you have any ideas? Also, what's going on at the border? Is there really no other way? Li Shimin was shocked. He finally understood what Zhang Feng meant when he said that the drought would never be as simple as he imagined it to be. This thing was accompanied by a lack of water. The direct result of a lack of water was drought. An endless drought. Is there a solution? Li Shimin could no longer sit still. For the time being, there's no need to pay too much attention to the matter at the border. They're already too busy taking care of themselves. It's impossible for them to improve their situation in a short period of time. As for Longyu, Your Majesty, the only way to solve this drought is to dig a canal from Mount Qilian. Li Shimin's eyes lit up. How long will it take to resolve this matter? 3 moons. March. In these 3 months, the cucumbers had already turned cold. Li Shimin felt like the world was spinning. If that was the case, then this drought would cause panic among the people. Coupled with the locusts that would follow, Li Shimin couldn't help but think of Zhang Feng. Perhaps only Zhang Feng could resolve this matter. If even he could not resolve it, then it would really be over. The next day, the sky was still dark. Li Shimin hurried out of the palace after dealing with important matters. When he arrived at the East Market, the sun had already risen to the top of his head. At this time, Zhang Feng yawned and slowly opened the door of his shop. As soon as he opened the door, Zhang Feng was stunned. He saw Lao Li sitting on the floor in front of the door in a daze. "Yo, Lao Li, what's wrong with you? Quick, come in, don't sit on the floor." Zhang Feng was a little confused. Could it be that this guy was chased out by his wife for cheating? But it didn't seem right. However, when Li Shimin turned around and looked at Zhang Feng saw his red eyes and understood something. This guy must have been caught cheating on his wife. "Lao Li, what kind of situation are you in now? Are you really going to do that?" "Hey, little brother Zhang, I don't have time for that." Li Shimin couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Haven't I been dealing with the business of Long Yu Dao these days? How is it?" Zhang Feng asked curiously. "How can it be? The continuous drought has caused the farmland, which was already on the brink of crisis, to be completely ruined. At this time, except for the Qilian mountain, there is no water in other places in Long Yu Dao. Brother, I'm going to go bankrupt," Li Shimin said affectionately. But seriously, if the business of Long Yu Dao was not dealt with properly, then the Tang dynasty would really go bankrupt. And at that time, the Tang dynasty would be the most miserable empire in history. Zhang Feng listened carefully to Li Shimin's complaints. He was not surprised at all. Instead, he seemed to have known it all along. This made Li Shimin more and more confused. "Lao Li, I really know how to deal with this. And I can tell you that we won't go bankrupt. Do you know why I said before that this drought is far from as simple as you think? In addition to the border problem, the biggest problem is to deal with the shortage of water. I really overestimated the emperor before. I thought he could think of that, but I didn't expect that the emperor could also be confused." Li Shimin blushed. But this was not the time to pursue the matter. He hurriedly asked, "Then, how do you think this matter should be solved?" "Don't worry." Zhang Feng waved his hand. He said lightly, "Let me ask you, now that there is a drought, what does Long Yu Dao need the most?" "Water." "Do you still need to say that?" Li Shimin was a little confused and said doubtfully, "Water." Zhang Feng snapped his fingers and said mysteriously, "Lao Li, your chance to make a fortune is here again." Chapter 44. What? Make a fortune? Li Shimin almost spat out a mouthful of blood. How could he be in the mood to make money now? He only wanted to solve the drought in Long Yu Dao as soon as possible and deal with the locusts. How could he be in the mood to make a fortune? But, at this moment, Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder as if he could see Li Shimin's anxiety. He said calmly, "Forget it, I won't tease you anymore. Let me ask you, what are they going to do first when Long Yu Dao is short of water?" "Open a canal to draw water. Do you even need to ask? From where? Now, only Mount Qilian has water. Naturally, they'll draw water from Mount Qilian." "Wrong. Of course, it's best to draw water now. But you have to know that if you draw water like this, you won't be able to draw water to the place for at least a year." "Why?" Li Shimin was a little confused. Opening a canal to draw water now was the best way. If that didn't work, was he going to watch the drought in Long Yu Dao spread like this? Zhang Feng sighed. "To think that you're still a businessman. Don't you know that rain after a long drought is a bad thing? Now that the entire Long Yu Dao is short of water, if you dig a canal now, your water won't be enough for the soil to absorb." Li Shimin was shocked. That's right. He had forgotten about that. At this time of drought, how could that little bit of water be enough? Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. "By the way, Lao Li, where are your businesses concentrated?" "They're mainly concentrated in Shazhou, Ganzhou, and other places in Long Yu Dao. You know that place is the western gate of the Tang dynasty, so many businessmen choose to build their industrial chain there." "Understood." This guy had concentrated all his businesses in one place. No wonder he was so flustered. Anyone would be flustered if this happened to him. Old Li, I'm seriously doubting how you managed to make your business so big. Don't you understand the principle of wealth not being concentrated? Forget it. Zhang Feng shook his head upon hearing this. I know that your mind is filled with thoughts about the business, so I won't beat around the bush. I advise you to stop talking about the way to open a canal. If you want to leave your name in history and attract the attention and favor of the current emperor, you can do so. But if you want to solve this drought, you'd better not do that. Why? Li Shimin was dumbfounded. At this moment he was getting more and more confused. Could it be that other than opening enough canals, there were other ways to get out of this crisis in a short period of time? Could it be that you're talking about using manpower to carry water? Li Shimin suddenly thought of a problem. Zhang Feng was speechless. Go and make some water wheels. Do you know what a water wheel is? That thing, as long as you have a lot of livestock, it can at least solve the problem of water in the shortest amount of time and with the least amount of loss. As for watering the crops, that's the next step. You have to solve the problem of drawing water for the people and livestock first, then use the waste water to water the farmland. Isn't that perfect? This isn't very good, is it? Although Li Shimin had never farmed before, how much water was left after the people and livestock used? How was he going to water them? How was he going to solve this crisis? Wasn't that just fooling around? Just treat your Zhuang family as humans and only water the seedlings. Is that not enough? Who asked you to water large tracts? Do you think you're the Dragon King? Zhang Feng was speechless. The first step is to solve the problem of drinking water for the people and livestock. Then, you can calculate how many carts of water per mu of land to save the farmers who can't withstand the drought. With such precise calculations, how could you make a mistake? Moreover, the water used by the people can be deposited and fed to the livestock. We can save the excess water and recycle it. Isn't that good? Isn't that saving effort? Isn't it good? The second step is to save the farmers who can withstand the drought if we have excess water. In this way, won't the problem be completely solved? This, Li Shimin was shocked. But he also understood. If what Zhang Feng said was true, then, combining all the horses and human resources in the Tang dynasty, the drought could be solved in less than a month. This was really a way to kill two birds with one stone. But the problem was, brother little Zhang, your method is good, but where did you get such a big bucket? Not only that, even if the bucket can really hold so much water, it will still take time. If this goes on, then, can the people of Longyu Road and the Zhuang family wait? Hi. Come. I'll give you another trick. It was really hard to explain. Zhang Feng did not intend to say anything more. Instead, he slapped his thigh, took the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone from the counter, and then wrote and drew on the paper for a moment. The tip of Zhang Feng's brush danced. A moment later, something that looked like a drum and a bucket appeared on the paper. To put it bluntly, Zhang Feng was just building a wooden water tank based on the model of a modern water storage car. You've seen this thing in the wooden bucket in your house, right? This thing is the improved version of that wooden bucket. You just need to follow the things on this blueprint, and I guarantee that you can solve the drought within half a month. What a pity! Li Shimin was shocked. But when he heard Zhang Feng say that it was a pity, he could not help but feel his heart clench. What's a pity? It's a pity that Li Shimin doesn't know. If the current emperor knew about this method, and if he sent 100,000 soldiers to do it, I guarantee that in less than 10 days, the people of Longyu Road would be able to drink water. Li Shimin's mouth twitched. But this was not the time to chat with Zhang Feng. He pulled out a stack of banknotes from his pocket. Brother Zhang, thank you. Lao Li, I won't say anything more. I'll go back first. Let's talk another time. Zhang Feng looked at the banknotes in his hand and his eyelids twitched. Thank you, Lao Li. Remember, the next time you come, I'll show you a package. Chapter 45. How could Li Shimin remember what Zhang Feng said at this moment? After hurriedly leaving the tavern and turning a corner, Li Shimin didn't even bother to sit in the sedan chair. He hurriedly rode back to the imperial city on a fast horse. Inform Fang Xianling and the others to come to the imperial study for a discussion. Only these words were left in the air. However, Li Shimin's voice had already disappeared in the crowd. After a while, in the imperial study, when Li Shimin returned to the imperial study, everyone was already waiting there. Your Majesty, you left the palace again? Have you thought of a solution this time? Everyone knew that Li Shimin had left the palace, and they had a tacit understanding. The main reason why he left the palace at this time was to solve the drought problem. Seeing the excitement on Li Shimin's face, how could they not know that the problem was solved? Yes, I have thought of this. As he spoke, Li Shimin solemnly took out the blueprint from his chest and repeated what Zhang Feng said to him. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but look at each other. This method was feasible. However, it could only solve the crisis temporarily. What about after the crisis? Moreover, if Li Shimin was really a businessman, this method would really work. But he wasn't. He was the emperor. What he wanted to solve was not the problem of 1 or 2 fields. What he wanted to solve was the problem of the entire Longyu Road. Your Majesty, this? Yes. Your Majesty, if at this time we gather all the businessmen in Longyu Road and give them some policy rewards, will they? Wei Jing slapped his thigh and excitedly interrupted Fang Xianling. Hearing this, everyone's eyes couldn't help but light up. That's right. Since Zhang Feng was talking about the solution of the businessmen, and Longyu Road was the most important trade route in the entire Tang dynasty. Most of the merchants' business areas there occupied the majority. At this time, they should be the most anxious ones, right? At this time, if the emperor issued an edict to provide free help and also provided transportation and tax convenience, how could those merchants not do it? Unless he was really an idiot. This method works. Wei Jing, I'll leave this matter to you. Also, gather all the soldiers in Longyu Dao and cooperate fully with this operation. Li Shimin stood up and heavily patted Wei Jing's shoulder. I'll give you a personal order. If you encounter any obstacles, act first and report later. Hiss. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Who would stop such a thing? Who would dare? However, everyone also knew that there were interests involved in this. Thinking about it, he felt relieved. Right at this moment, Li Shimin walked around the study a few times before saying, "There's one more thing. Zhangsun Wuji, hear the decree. I order you to immediately gather all the craftsmen in the world. You must rush to Longyu Road within 3 days to assist in the treatment of the drought." Yes, Your Majesty. As the orders were issued one after another, the giant Tang dynasty group was activated again. Secret decrees and imperial edicts flew out of the imperial study in Taiji Palace like snowflakes and then scattered throughout the Tang dynasty. As a result, everyone was shocked. What on earth had happened to the Tang dynasty? And the initiator of this matter, Zhang Feng, after seeing that there was no business, simply closed the door, lay on the bed, and fell asleep. He had no idea that because of his words, the entire Tang dynasty was completely boiling at this time. As for Longyu Road, Li Shimin's secret decrees were passed to the hands of rich merchants. These rich merchants were really more anxious than anyone else. Not only did Wei Jing not give any power to them, but he also made a lot of money for the Tang dynasty because of this. At this time, everyone in Longyu Circuit was extremely busy because of this matter. In the following days, mules, military horses, and water carts pulled by oxen set out from various places in a grandiose manner. They went to Mount Qilian, the only source of water in Longyu Circuit, to fetch water. Then they hurried back to various places in Longyu Road. A drought that threatened the Tang dynasty was quietly suppressed at this time. And Li Shimin could finally breathe a sigh of relief after learning all this. Looking at the reports of Longyu Road's success, Li Shimin was very gratified. Li Shimin waved his hand and said with boundless heroism, "Pass down the imperial decree. Summon Wei Zheng and the others to the palace for a banquet. I'm going to hold a banquet to entertain everyone." He wanted very much to have a drink with Zhang Feng. He even wanted to directly issue a decree to make Zhang Feng an official. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to. This was really not the right time. And as Zhang Feng said, this was not the right time. Therefore, Li Shimin could only hold a banquet to entertain everyone and ask whether he should show his cards now or wait until Zhang Feng was willing to be an official. However, at this time, a fast horse rushed through the night and hurriedly appeared outside Taiji Palace. Report! Urgent report from the Emperor. Tubo. Tuyuhan envoys are here to see the Emperor. What? Tuyuhan? Tubo? This is Li Shimin, who was a little excited just now, could not help but frown at this time. Could it be that they were aware of the drought in Great Tang that they were here? Or did they know about the locust plague? Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "Send a message to let them rest in the post house. We'll discuss it tomorrow." Chapter 46. Taiji Palace. Imperial Study. At this moment, everyone was no longer in the mood to celebrate. At this moment, everyone was staring at the imperial wine on the table with a sad face. Everyone was silent. Seeing this, Li Shimin was anxious and could only rub his forehead. "Dear officials, what do you think is the purpose of Tubo and Tuyuhan's visit? How should we deal with it?" Everyone was silent. But after a while, Du Ruhui stroked his white beard and said, "Your Majesty, if we gather all the information we have before, the drought in Tubo and Tuyuhan is basically uncontrollable. I think they are here to form an alliance or to know about the drought in Longyudao. The drought is definitely uncontrollable. But how did they know that we were transporting water from Mount Qilian? Could it be that their spies are already lurking in the Tang dynasty?" Everyone could not help but feel a little scared. It had only been half a month since they found out about the solution to the drought. The news had already spread? What else could explain this except for the presence of spies? "Your Majesty, I think they are here to ask for help. As for the matter of transporting water from Mount Qilian, I think it is impossible for them to know about it. Our people have been keeping an eye on them. Even if they know, what can they do? Our Tang dynasty is vast and abundant in resources, and there are many rivers. At this time, there are still rivers in Tubo that have not dried up. It is impossible to solve the drought in a short time. If we can use the drought to destroy the two countries, then..." Li Shimin suddenly understood. "Then the question now is, should we meet them or not? If we don't meet them, how should we deal with them? If we meet them, what should we do?" This was the biggest problem facing the Tang dynasty. If we meet them, what should we do? If we don't meet them, how should we solve this crisis? Let's meet them. If we don't meet them, it will definitely make Tubo and Tuyuhan desperate. Then let's meet them. The next morning, in the political announcement hall. Today, everyone was not as lazy as before. Everyone straightened their backs and stood in the middle of the main hall. Even Qing Yaojin, who was used to being lazy, had a solemn expression on his face as if he was about to enter a battlefield. A moment later, a young eunuch announced, "The Emperor has arrived." Following which, the crowd shouted in unison, "Long live the Emperor." Li Shimin strode forward, waved his hand and said majestically, "Summon the envoys of Tufan and Tuyuhan for an audience." After a while, a group of people wearing Tubo and Tuyuhan uniforms walked into the hall. The crowd did not even look at Li Shimin. They just casually cupped their hands and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty, the Tang Emperors." Everyone's arrogance infuriated all the family members in the hall. When they saluted, they only cupped their fists as if they were greeting strangers. Obviously, they did not put Li Shimin in their eyes. Li Shimin could not help but show a trace of displeasure in his eyes. But he still suppressed his anger and said calmly, "May I know why you have come to the Tang dynasty?" Recently, Tubo and Tuyuhan have encountered a drought that is hard to come by in 100 years. And we have learned that the Tang dynasty seems to have also encountered a drought. So, we have found a solution, so we have come to present it to Your Majesty, the Tang Emperors. "Oh!" Li Shimin smiled. The ministers also smiled. Are they trying to show off in front of an expert? And it seems that they don't know that the Tang dynasty has found a solution? Then, it will be easy to handle. Li Shimin suppressed his smile and asked, "May I know what the solution is?" The Tubo envoy said arrogantly, "My king received the call of heaven today. He found that there is still water under the sand, and the hottest place has more water. We just need to take out the utensils after night falls, put them on the ground, and cover them with a layer of talisman paper. The next day, we will have a full utensils of water." Is this a fraud? Or is he king confused by hunger? How can he think of such a solution? Li Shimin was stunned and then shook his head. Then why did you come to the Tang dynasty with this news? Could it be? The Tubo envoy arrogantly interrupted Li Shimin and said loudly, "That's right. My king received an edict from heaven. The Tang dynasty is in danger, and as a neighbor, we have the duty to help the Tang dynasty." But everyone suddenly understood. Was this the highlight of the show? The Tubo envoy said calmly, "In exchange, we Tubo are willing to give up half of Longyu Circuit's land in exchange for the water source method with Tuyuhun. Together, we will save the people of the Tang dynasty. What do you think, Your Majesty?" Li Shimin's eyebrows twitched. What a boastful tone. How greedy was that? Half of Longyu Circuit's land? How could they think of that? That was the Tang dynasty's gateway to the west. Tubo and Tuyuhun could not sit still and wanted to take advantage of the situation. However, Li Shimin was also angry this time. Did they really think that he was a fool? Li Shimin's eyes flashed with a touch of coldness and said lightly, "Then I thank the good intentions of the two countries first. Unfortunately, my great Tang has already solved the problem of the drought. And now we have solved the water source problem in Longyu Circuit." What? Impossible. This? My king did not even. How did you do it? Oh my God. The Tubo and Tuyuhun people were in an uproar. However, Li Shimin said calmly again, "If you two can't think of a solution to the drought, I will use the same method to help you." Chapter 47. Pft. Ha. Ha ha. Lao Tzu can't hold it in any longer. Ha. Li Shimin's voice trailed off. Cheng Yaojin finally couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. This was like a fuse. Everyone couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. This kind of thing. How could Tuyuhun and Tubo say that? If they didn't solve the epidemic in Longyu Road, they would really be slapped in the face this time. But what a coincidence. They really managed to stop the epidemic this time. Otherwise, they would have managed to stop it and even achieved significant results. This put Tubo and Tuyuhun in an awkward position. "Your Majesty, the Tang emperors. May I ask, what method did you use to solve the drought problem? This doesn't make sense. Our great king prayed for 3 days and 3 nights before he found out about this method. How did you find out about this method? Your Majesty, the Tang emperors." The Tuyuhun envoy, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up. "Although I don't know what method you used, I can tell you that this method definitely won't work. We, Tuyuhun, are good at divination. A few days ago, we found out about a method from the stars. And according to the stars, we found a water source. How did you do it?" From the laughter of the crowd, the Tuyuhun envoy finally realized that something was wrong. However, it was also because of this laughter that the two envoys couldn't help but feel guilty. Even when Tuyuhun said this, the laughter didn't stop. Instead, it grew louder. Everyone was dumbstruck by this unexpected development. Could it be that they really solved the problem? Their purpose in coming to the Tang dynasty was very clear. They wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to gain some benefits. Although they solved some of their water source problem, it wasn't much. Moreover, there were signs of an outbreak. And to be honest, if they solved the drought problem, why would they be so stupid to come to the Tang dynasty? This time, they came to find out if the Tang dynasty solved the water source problem. Secondly, they wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail the Tang dynasty and gain some benefits from it. However, from the looks of it, their plans seemed to have failed. Li Shimin couldn't hold it in any longer. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "All right, the two of you have come from afar. Guards, bring the envoys down and entertain them well." If possible, the Tang dynasty will definitely entertain you well. That's enough, court is dismissed. The court will disperse. Li Shimin and the others hurried back to the imperial study. However, the moment they entered the imperial study, everyone could not help but burst into laughter. Ha! What a joke! They even took the opportunity to blackmail the Tang dynasty. If it weren't for Brother Zhang Feng, who helped me solve this crisis, my Tang dynasty would be really greedy today. Isn't that right? All thanks to Brother Zhang Feng. But to be honest, this time, don't you see that Tubo and Tuyuhun have a solution? Li Shimin had a bad feeling. He said in a deep voice, I think Tubo is really desperate this time, so he took the opportunity to come here and take the opportunity to enter the Tang dynasty. It can't be, right? It can't be. Tubo has the source of the river. How can it be? Everyone was in an uproar. If Li Shimin's analysis was correct, this time, it seemed that the matter was not as simple as it seemed. Tubo's intentions were unclear. He definitely would not be so kind as to come and tell everyone the solution to the drought. As for safety, he only had one intention: to find out if the Tang dynasty had a solution to the drought. He also wanted to confirm if the Tang dynasty really had the possibility of a locust plague, because they also noticed the insect eggs in the soil. This time, it was really troublesome. Everyone could not help but frown. If that was the case, then, Your Majesty, I think that if it's possible, we should tell the two sides about the solution. This thing is not a big secret. In less than half a month, even if we don't tell them, they will know the solution. That's right. And we can also take advantage of this to reap some benefits. Why not? But I'll think about it. Li Shimin rubbed his forehead. After thinking hard for a moment, he pointed at Zhangsun Wuji and said, Wuji, later, you go set up a banquet for me and settle this matter while you're at it. Yes, Your Majesty. After receiving the order, everyone left in a hurry. Li Shimin looked at the sunlight outside the window and felt a burst of pride in his heart. This was the feeling of a ruler of a great country. This was all Zhang Feng. If he did not exist, then all of this today would not have happened. Although the Tang dynasty could also solve this crisis, he did not think that the humiliation of Tubo and Tuyuhun could be solved so quickly. All of this was because of Zhang Feng. Li Shimin sighed again. He looked at Zhang Feng's painting on the top of the study room. He smacked his lips and said, Little Gizi, send the message that I'm leaving the palace. Yes, Your Majesty. The next moment, Li Shimin disguised himself and hurriedly left the palace without being disturbed. However, just as Li Shimin was about to leave the imperial city and enter Chang, and Wei Jing, who had been waiting for Li Shimin, stopped him. Second brother, are you going out? Chapter 48. Hearing that, Li Shimin's face darkened. Damn it. At a corner not far away, Wei Zheng was squatting in the tea shop, staring at him. Next to him, Qing Yaojin looked at Li Shimin reluctantly, indicating that it was all Wei Zheng's doing. The three of them looked at each other. Li Shimin came to the tea shop sullenly. Old Wei, what are you? Second brother, I've been waiting for you. Do you know that I have to wait for you here every day? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Li Shimin's face darkened and he almost cursed. Damn it. He knew that these people were after Zhang Feng, but he didn't expect them to be so persistent. No, Zhang Feng is mine. Qing Yaojin had clearly warned him that Zhang Feng was his, but Li Shimin was still a little afraid of the others. Especially this old man Wei Zheng. What if he wants him? Then it'll be really troublesome. However, it was obviously impossible to drive Wei Zheng away now. Li Shimin simply said it out loud. Old Wei, you know the significance of being a shopkeeper. If he stays with me, then you also know that it's extraordinary. Why do you also want to interfere? Wei Zheng's face was dignified. He had known that Li Shimin would say that. He couldn't help but say, I know, but my place is also important. If he comes to my place, not only will he be able to resolve the matters of the court in a short period of time, Your Majesty's matter will also be resolved in a short period of time. Only then will such a talent be able to display his talents. Your Majesty, I know this, but if I stand in the overall situation of the Tang dynasty and talk about Brother Zhang Feng, I think he really has to go to the secretarial department. Old way. Li Shimin smacked his lips and said lightly, there's no room for discussion, yo. Everyone is here. At this moment, Zhang Sun Wuji hurried out of the imperial city gate. But the next moment, he saw Li Shimin and the others sitting in a tea shop on the street, arguing about something. He was going to find Li Shimin, but when he learned that the emperor was not here and combined with the current situation, he knew that the emperor must have gone to the tavern at this time. Zhang Sun Wuji immediately became anxious. Zhang Feng was also the one he had reserved was the one who had reserved. This didn't make sense. Although the emperor was indeed the leader of the group, Zi and Zhang Feng were two different things. Zhang Feng had to go to him. Everyone knew that if Zhang went to someone, he would be the one who would be much more relaxed. As for slacking off, who wouldn't be happy? On the one hand, he could get things done. On the other hand, he could get things done perfectly in the shortest time. At this moment, when everyone saw Zhang Sun Wuji with a sneaky smile on his face, they all knew what he was up to. Li Shimin's face darkened. Old son, didn't you go to entertain the guests? What are you doing? Hey, Lao Li. I was just about to look for you. Don't mention it. Those people will leave in a hurry after leaving the main hall. I'm still wondering what they're going to do. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. This matter was really guessed correctly. Tubo and Tuyuhun were really there to inquire about the news. Now that they didn't get any news and even lost face, how could they not hurry back to report it? This was a good thing. But it was also a bad thing. If they didn't handle it well, then what awaited them would be a large number of envoys from the two countries. At that time, they would really be done for. Li Shimin frowned but didn't take it to heart. Come if you can. Pay more attention to this matter, especially the border matters. Activate the highest level spies and tell them to pay more attention to the actions of the two countries towards the Tang dynasty in the future. I know and understand this matter. I've already started to do it. Wouldn't Zhang Sun Wuji think that the emperor was urging him to leave? How could he be willing to leave now? Seeing that it didn't work, Li Shimin sighed helplessly. Alright. However, I advise you not to take the initiative to reveal our identities. The little shopkeeper still thinks that we are merchants. Moreover, he doesn't know that we are real people. This kind of virtuous sage all has eccentricities. If something goes wrong, then the chicken will fly away and the eggs will be lost. We understand. But, Wei Zheng said with a serious face, this matter is not related to the imperial court. Second brother, I think we should compete fairly. What do you think? This, Li Shimin's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It turned out that this was Wei Zheng's trap. But, in that case, let's do it this way. Li Shimin nodded with a little worry, tacitly agreeing to this matter. So, Lao Li? Lao Sun? Lao Chen? You here to have tea? At this moment, a voice that Li Shimin couldn't be more familiar with suddenly sounded behind them. They were so scared that they trembled all over. They were afraid that he had heard their conversation just now. But fortunately, everyone's self-cultivation was extremely high. At this time, they were prepared to deal with this kind of thing. Li Shimin pretended to be surprised and turned around. Oh, shopkeeper, we're talking about you. You're really speaking of the devil. Come on. Ever since these brothers of mine saw your calligraphy, they have been begging me to come to you and ask for one of your paintings. Zhang Feng suddenly understood. But the next moment, he looked at the unfamiliar Wei Zheng and asked, This is... Chapter 49. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. They were afraid that Zhang Feng would recognize Wei Zheng. But at the next moment, Zhang Feng's words relieved everyone's worries. Oh, let me introduce this person to you. He's a rich businessman from Longyu Road and also Lao Li's friend. You can call him Lao Wei. Yo, Lao Wei. While speaking, Zhang Feng put his arm around Wei Zheng's shoulder. Let's go. What's so good about this tea? Haven't you tasted good tea before? Let's go. We have good wine. Let's go to my pub. Since you're Lao Li's good friend, you're Zhang Feng's good friend. Today, I've prepared a few jars of good wine. It's my treat. Let's go. While speaking, Zhang Feng grabbed Wei Zheng and walked forward. Seeing this, Li Shimin and the others' faces darkened. What did this mean? Li Shimin hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang, could it be that you don't even want me, Lao Li, anymore after knowing Lao Wei? Seeing Li Shimin pretending to be angry, Zhang Feng couldn't help laughing. Look at what you're saying. What are you talking about? Am I, Zhang Feng, that kind of person? I, Zhang Feng, am where I am today because of you, Lao Li. Let's go, we're all good friends. Don't be so reserved. While speaking, Zhang Feng put his arm around their shoulders, one on the left and one on the back. But Wei Zheng couldn't keep his face. His drooping face kept twitching. What kind of scandal was this? It was a disgrace to the refined. A disgrace to the refined. But, just this once. In order to see Zhang Feng's talent, Wei Zheng suppressed the displeasure in his heart and followed Zhang Feng slowly. If it weren't for the Tang dynasty's current crisis, with Wei Zheng's temper, he wouldn't be Wei Zheng if he didn't point at Zhang Feng's nose and scold him. At this time, Zhang Sun Wuji and Qing Yaojin, who were following Li Shimin and Wei Zheng, were dumbfounded. What was going on? How could this work? What the hell? Are they crazy? When did Wei Zheng have such a good temper? But they didn't dare to say it. At this time, they just quietly followed the three people quietly. Not far from the pub. Moreover, Li Shimin had made arrangements beforehand, and everyone was in disguise. This matter did not attract anyone's attention. After a while, they slowly came to Zhang Feng's pub. Zhang Feng habitually left them in the pub. Everyone, please wait a moment. I'll get some side dishes. Boss, you do what you need to do. We can do it ourselves. Li Shimin found a place with good lighting and sat down happily. After a while, Zhang Feng hurried in with a large tray. Then he went to the wine cellar and got 2 jugs of fragrant wine. Lao Li, you came in a hurry last time. Do you remember when you left last time? I said I would treat you to the strongest wine this time? This is it. While they were talking, Zhang Feng pulled out the cork on the wine jug with a bang. In an instant, the rich aroma of the wine filled the whole pub. At this time, Li Shimin's eyelids couldn't help twitching. Boss, this wine is good, but it's too strong. Last time, I drank too much and almost made a mistake. Let's drink less this time, so as not to make a mistake. Last time, Li Shimin almost made a big mistake. If he didn't wake up at the last minute, he would have been fired and investigated Wei Zheng. Thinking about it now, he was a little scared. And that time, because he drank too much wine, he made a mistake in the night investigation in Chang and City and was scolded by Wei Zheng. Zhang Feng chuckled. No, I won't. The wine last time was not diluted, so it was a little strange. But after that time, the wine has been completely changed. It retains the original mellow taste, but the alcohol content has decreased a lot. This time, everyone, drink to your heart's content. This time it's my treat. Zhang Feng waved his hand generously, then took a small stool and sat between Li Shimin and Wei Zheng. Speaking of which, Lao Li, you really got into trouble last time. If it weren't for your quick wits, you might be in jail now. Zhang Feng clinked his wine bowl with everyone inside. Wei Zheng's eyes flashed when he heard that. Brother Zhang, are you talking about that time? Isn't it that time, the night investigation in Chang and City? Everyone was shocked. Could it be that the boss had guessed it? But it couldn't be, right? Li Shimin's eyes flashed. Boss, you're telling the truth. Last time I drank with these guys. I didn't expect a servant to eavesdrop and brag about it. But our Lao Li is quick-witted. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see each other this time. Li Shimin laughed and decisively changed the topic. By the way, Lao Wei likes your calligraphy very much. His hobbies are similar to yours, so this time, he made a fuss and wanted to come along. Boss, why don't you? Hey! Lao Wei, you like Confucianism too? That's right. After seeing the calligraphy in Lao Li's house, I learned something, so I wanted to ask for your advice. However, the next moment, Zhang Feng shrugged. Unfortunately, I only know a little, a little. Chapter 50. A little? Everyone was dumbfounded. However, Zhang Feng touched his nose awkwardly. How could he know anything? He was just a plagiarist who borrowed other people's things from historical allusions. Otherwise, how could he compare himself to others? However, it seemed that he had blown himself out of proportion this time. Could it be that this old Li really had a strange person by his side? If that was the case, he might lose face this time. However, on second thought, Zhang Feng made up his mind. What was there to be afraid of? There were so many things in Wuxia's 5,000 years of history, ancient and modern. Could it be that they knew everything? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng changed the topic. However, since Old Wei is also interested in this, then I will risk my life to accompany you. Ha! Risk my life? That's not necessary. Confucianism is broad and profound. I only know a little about it. I have a question. Wei Jing changed the topic and looked solemn. I have heard that you are very good at governing a country. Then Old Wei happened to read some books before. I wanted to pass the imperial examinations and become a scholar, but in the end, I ended up as a businessman. I would like to ask you, little shopkeeper, what is governing a country? Governing a country? When Wei Jing said this, the temperature in the shop suddenly dropped a lot. Zhang Feng also had a strange look on his face. What the F***CK? I would like to ask, are you guys stubborn or what? How dare you talk about such a sensitive topic? Aren't you afraid of being heard and thrown into jail? Li Shimin waved his hand and said hurriedly, Brother, don't worry. We are all on the same side here. We are just drinking. The situation of the world, to me. Fine. But. Zhang Feng had long known about Li Shimin's mouth. He said speechlessly, Actually, when it comes to governing a country, I do know a little about it. The way we know about governing a country is from Confucianism, Taoism, or an extension of law. Confucianism teaches people to do good, benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trust. However, the Dharma Tao emphasizes a different structure, which is to rule the country according to law. Only Tao requires a different kind of profound level. However, this kind of thing is not suitable for the current situation. But when it comes to governing a country, I don't agree with such things. Oh! Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Talking about these things in public, if it was someone else, it would be a capital offense. But who were these people? Therefore, heavy people were not afraid. However, Zhang Feng's shocking words had another layer of meaning behind them. That would be interesting. Zhang Feng continued, What is law? Law means that we forcefully add our own rules to this world, the original world. This law is below the law of nature, but it is also above the law of nature. Although this is indeed beneficial to the country's management at this time, it is inhumane. It's easier for people with ulterior motives to take advantage of the loophole. As for the Confucianism, do you think it is feasible for the current situation of the Tang dynasty? Everyone shook their heads when they heard this. Do you mean that there is a problem with the current law? Wei Jing could not help but ask. No problem. Aren't we talking about the way to govern a country? The way to govern a country? What is governing a country? That is to rely on the people. Without the people, how can a country be governed? Then we come back to the last problem. Our current problem is how to cure this country. You have seen the situation around the Tang dynasty now. Basically, people's lives are hanging by a thread. I learned this morning that the envoys of Tubo and Tuyuhun had an audience with His Majesty. Did you know? Zhang Feng asked in a mysterious manner. Although everyone knew, but they could not say it. Li Shimin pretended not to know anything and exclaimed, What? Why don't we know about this? Is there going to be a war? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes at Li Shimin. You can't wait for a war, can you? How would he dare to fight now? If my guess is right, Tubo and Tuyuhun are going to make a big move now, and their drought is going to be unavoidable. For them to come to the Great Tang, they must be using this chance to extort the Great Tang. Everyone was shocked again. this matter. Except for the people in the imperial court. How could the envoy of Tubo, who did not tell outsiders and left in a hurry, talk about such a thing? Then, in that case, these things were all guessed by Zhang Feng? This Wei Zheng was shocked. He could not help but ask, "How did you know about this? Was it also a guess?" Zhang Feng chuckled, "Yes. You guessed it right, I guessed it. Not only that, I also guessed that the emperor must have dealt with this matter and found a way to solve the drought in Longyu Road. Otherwise, how could Tubo's people leave so quickly?" Li Shimin was shocked. He stared at Cheng Yaojin and said, "You know about this too?" Cheng Yaojin shook his head innocently. However, Zhang Feng did not notice these small movements. He continued to say, "Regarding this matter, my guess is spot on. Furthermore, the people from Tubo had come with a mighty aura. Who wouldn't know that they were acting so arrogantly? Who didn't see it? Just now, when I was in the market, I saw that the guards suddenly relaxed. Does that mean anything? This means that Tubo and his people have left." Chapter 51. Amazing! This was King Godly. How did he know about this? This, everyone could not help but be shocked. Who would have guessed that he could guess so much just based on his understanding of the market? But, was Zhang Feng really guessing? Part of it was guessing, but most of it was based on the memories in his memory. In the second year of Xinguan in the Tang dynasty, in early June, Tubo and Tuyuhun were suffering from a drought. They took the opportunity to seize Longyu Road but returned with no hope. How could he not know about such historical records? However, Zhang Feng was even more smug at this time. It also made Zhang Feng's identity even more mysterious. Wei Jing seemed to be a little skeptical and continued to ask, "What is a talent? A talented person can do it. Then, how can he be called a virtuous minister?" A virtuous minister? Zhang Feng was a little hesitant. He looked at Wei Zheng with a strange face and said, "Old Wei, can we not talk about this? This is a serious crime that deserves to be beheaded." Zhang Feng was speechless. This, Wei Zheng was also a little guilty. He was too anxious. But this matter was really urgent. Excited. From the description of the way to rule a country, he could see that this Zhang Feng was really a great talent. For such a talent, if he didn't have the correct guidance, he would most likely walk down the wrong path. Moreover, Zhang Feng looked so young. If that was the case, it would be the misfortune of the Tang dynasty. Thinking of this, Wei Jing smiled embarrassedly. "Isn't this a discussion? I'm just asking casually. If you don't know, it's okay. Let's drink." Wait. Zhang Feng's stubbornness came up. Who said that he could not say it? Just think about the translations of the ancient people and he could say a lot of it. Moreover, he was a genius in the literature department. He was not unfamiliar with these things. After thinking for a bit, Zhang Feng said, "The so-called virtuous paragon is a person who is able to coordinate all the talented people, and there are very few people in China who can be called virtuous paragon. At least, Zhuge Liang doesn't count. As for these virtuous ministers, let's talk about the current imperial court. Wei Jing is one of them. Although he is meticulous in everything, his loyalty is unmatched. Then, what about Cheng Yaojin? That's right. What about Zhang Sun Wuji?" The two of them asked anxiously. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "Although these two people aren't as good as Wei Zheng, they aren't too far off. Their conduct can be considered good, but they aren't worthy of a virtuous minister." Their faces darkened. Wei Jing felt extremely comfortable at this moment. This was an affirmation for him. Moreover, he praised him in front of Li Shimin. Who wouldn't like to hear such things? But, since there are virtuous ministers, there must be a good monarch. Let's talk about the current emperor. While they were talking, Li Shimin's eyes lit up, and he immediately pulled himself together. The current emperor, as I said before, is the emperor of the ages. I won't talk about this anymore. However, he is not a good person. Not a good person? Everyone was aghast. At this moment, Li Shimin's expression froze. Zhang Feng continued, "I know you must be very surprised. Everything the current emperor does is for the country and the people. Why is he not a good person? There is a reason. Let's recall Li Shimin's life. He fought all his life. The name of King Qin even made everyone tremble in fear. More than tens of thousands of people died in his hands. Moreover, in the previous Wei River Alliance, he signed this thing in humiliation to ensure the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. He is not a good person. How can a good person do these things? However, it is also because of Li Shimin's actions that he will definitely become the emperor of the ages. Spreading the word and accepting good people. Such a wise monarch, even in history, no one can compare with him. There is another saying. A good person can't be the emperor. If Li Shimin is a good person, he will definitely be soft-hearted. Then how can he pacify the Tang dynasty? If he couldn't bear the humiliation and sign the Wei River Alliance that day, maybe Chang and city will no longer exist now. How can there be such a Tang dynasty? Everyone was silent. And Li Shimin's heart was even more turbulent. Was this the first half of his life? At this moment, his thoughts returned to that young man, wearing a white cloak, whistling in the rain of blood and wind. And at the bank of the Wei River, who could understand that kind of despair? Even at this moment, in the hearts of all the ministers, perhaps they were still cursing Li Shimin for signing the Wei River Alliance. But he didn't regret it. He really didn't regret this matter. Because if he didn't do so, the Tang dynasty would really be finished at that time. Good. Well said, shopkeeper. Li Shimin was so excited that he choked with sobs. He picked up the wine bowl and said, "Come, let me toast you. To the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. Come. To the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. Let's toast." Everyone was aghast. They couldn't help but recall the glorious days of the past. However, Zhang Feng drank the wine in the bowl and said, "But I want to mention one more person. Empress Xianxia." Chapter 52. I'm sure all of you know about Empress Xianxia, right? But what you don't know is that all the decisions made by His Majesty are made after discussing with Empress Xianxia. It can be said that Empress Xianxia owes half of the credit to the current imperial edict and every decision. Everyone was in an uproar. Who else knew about this except for Li Shimin? But now everyone knew. So everyone was shocked at this time. Although Empress Xianxia usually didn't ask about anything, they didn't expect that the Empress was so talented. Otherwise, why would Zhang Feng talk about her alone? At this time, Li Shimin's heart was more excited. She was his Empress. Empress Xianxia is Xianxia Wuji's sister, but this Empress is not simple. She can be compared to history, except for the wife of Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty. If it weren't for her, the Wei River Alliance wouldn't have been signed. That's not all. I'm sure that this time, it was Empress Xianxia who solved the drought in Longyu Road, right? But this time he guessed wrong. This drought was really not Empress Xianxia who dealt with it. It was himself. But this was all in the future. Li Shimin was silent at this time. Zhang Feng's mouth was dry from all the talking. He stopped and drank a big bowl of wine, and then said, "Let's not talk about this. If we talk about it again, we will lose our heads. I've said a little too much. How can we talk about the Empress? Yes. Let's drink. Let's drink." Li Shimin took the opportunity to say. In fact, Li Shimin really benefited a lot from talking so much today. After a few more bowls of wine, Wei Jing took the opportunity to say, "Shopkeeper, with your ability, why don't you take the exam and get a scholarly honor? Why are you willing to be a shopkeeper in this tavern? Don't you think it's a waste of your talent?" Hearing this, everyone's ears perked up. Wei Jing continued, "My surname is Wei. Naturally, I have a distant relative who works in the secretarial department. If you want to go, ahem, old Wei. You can't make the decision for the secretarial department." Li Shimin coughed violently and reminded. When Zhang Feng heard this, he was indeed a little tempted. Secretarial supervisor. That was the department closest to the emperor. However, when he thought of that damn system, Zhang Feng could only smile helplessly. "Thank you, old Wei, but this really isn't the right time." "Oh." But Wei Jing became interested. Zhang Feng laughed and said, "To put it bluntly, it all started when I left the mountain. At that time, I looked at Chang and city and saw the purple qi coming from the east, so I wanted to experience the world of mortals. However, the time was not right." After talking nonsense for a while, Zhang Feng quickly shut up. However, Wei Jing seemed to believe it. He hurriedly asked, "If that's the case, I really heard from Lao Li that you seem to be a Taoist priest from Mount Wutai?" "Ahem. Yes. You can say that. Damn Lao Li. Why did you say everything to others? I haven't married yet. If you spread it like this, I won't be able to get a hammer when the time comes." Everyone hurriedly ended this topic. They continued to drink and chat. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 rounds of dishes. When everyone was dizzy, Zhang Feng dizzily grabbed Wei Zheng's hand and said, "I heard that you want to ask me for my calligraphy?" He especially emphasized the word, ask. At this time, hearing this, the corners of everyone's mouth could not help but twitch. After seeing Lao Li's calligraphy, "We've been thinking about it all this time. Brother Zhang, give me a piece of calligraphy, please." "Well, naturally, thank you." While talking, everyone also came up. Everyone could see Zhang Feng's talent, and Zhang Feng was destined to be the kind of person who would soar to the sky in the future. If they could leave his calligraphy at this time, then everything in the future would be a blessing for their descendants. Although the word ask didn't sound good, it didn't matter. Zhang Feng's talent was worth it. But Zhang Feng laughed happily. Whether it was for money or to show off, Zhang Feng accepted it. "Since everyone is so supportive, then today I will give everyone a piece of calligraphy that has been handed down for generations." While talking, Zhang Feng stood up unsteadily. Coming to the counter, he took out the 4 treasures of the study and began to write. Crossing the ocean. Hardships met, were scattered around the stars. The mountains and rivers shattered, the wind drifted, the life experience fluctuated, the rain hit the duckweed. The beachhead of terror speaks of terror, while the stray sighs and sighs. Since ancient times, who didn't die, leaving a loyal heart to shine in the history? As the cursive words appeared on the paper, everyone went into an uproar. This word. Oh my God. This is a poem? The artistic conception of this, oh my God. This must be a masterpiece passed down from generation to generation. This piece of calligraphy belongs to old Qin, no one can snatch it. Cheng Yaojin patted everyone's shoulders, looked at Wei Zheng, and said with a threatening face. And Wei Zheng did not seem to be afraid of him, instead, he smiled slightly. "This was given to me by brother Zhang Feng." Chapter 53. Li Shimin glared at Cheng Yaojin. "Shut up. Don't disturb brother Zhang Feng." Hearing that, Cheng Yaojin shrank his neck and stopped talking. But he had made up his mind to get this piece of calligraphy. Although his knowledge was shallow, he could still feel the artistic conception in this piece of calligraphy. It was like a golden spear and an armored horse. This was something that could only be summed up by a general in his whole life. Such an artistic conception. If it was passed down, the Qing family would definitely remember him and the achievements of their ancestors. And Cheng Yaojin could only suppress the excitement in his heart at this time. He looked at the calligraphy quietly and felt agitated. Zhang Feng was still writing and did not notice the strange look of the crowd. As the words fell one by one. Finally, Zhang Feng took out the big seal and stamped the name with a bang. This is good. Then I'll continue to write. As for who wants that, you can discuss it among yourselves. While speaking, Zhang Feng continued to write something. And at this time, everyone's eyes fell on Zhang Feng again. Suddenly, Zhang Feng's eyes closed tightly as he quietly pondered in his mind. Then, he abruptly opened his eyes and began to write on a new piece of white paper with a brush covered in ink. Sick writing in the heart. Sick bones scattered and the gauze hat wide, lonely officials thousands of miles away on the river dry. Lowly status does not dare to forget the country, things must wait for the coffin to close. The gods of heaven and earth support the temple, The elders of the capital look to the temple. Leaving the apprentice, one can understand the present and the ancient, one can look more carefully at midnight by the light. As the first line of words fell, everyone was in an uproar. This time, Zhang Feng did not write in cursive but in clerical script. It was not that he did not want to, but because the artistic conception of this poem must be written in regular script. Lu Yu was the poet he respected the most, so he was so serious about this poem. The regular words, stroke by stroke, made Zhang Feng's handwriting more elegant. Stroke by stroke, like iron hook and silver painting. Heavens! Li Shimin was shocked. He was also someone who loved calligraphy, but when he saw Zhang Feng's calligraphy, even though it wasn't as bold as the cursive script, it made Zhang Feng's entire temperament change. A hint of elegance. A trace of unfathomable depth. Furthermore, what was the artistic conception in this poem? Wei Zheng's eyes flickered. If it weren't for the fact that Zhang Feng was currently composing, he would have given a Confucian bow. This was a poem that was really created for him. The artistic conception of the poem could no longer be described with words. As for the first poem, this one was really compatible with him. And Zhang Feng really did not know any of this. He only wrote whatever came to mind. Furthermore, he had old Wei, who understood the Confucian Tao, by his side. He did not dare to do so, as the words were spoken. In the end, Zhang Feng paused. Poetry. It was still a poem. But this time, the poem was created by Zhang Feng according to Lu Yu's masterpiece in his memory. As time went by, finally, the 4 pieces of calligraphy were finished. But everyone looked at Zhang Feng in silence. Was this a human or a god? To be able to complete such a peerless masterpiece in such a short time, was he still a human? Heavens! This was a god. A god given to the Tang dynasty by God. Well, that's all for now. I believe that these words will be handed down as a masterpiece and will definitely be handed down. Brother Zhang Feng, can you bestow this illness rises from the book to old Wei? Wei Zheng interrupted Zhang Feng's words, hurried in front of everyone, gave a big bow, and then continued, they are all uncouth people and only I can understand the meaning of this calligraphy, so I'm willing to pay 100 taels. Zhang Feng was shocked. 100 taels? Oh my God. But at this time, Li Shimin was unhappy. Why should it be yours just because you said so? This emperor feels that this poem is written for this emperor. Immediately, Li Shimin waved his hand and said excitedly, Brother! You're my real brother. Thank you so much for this piece of calligraphy. Don't worry, I have a package here. Take it as an exchange for your calligraphy. Li Shimin immediately stopped Wei Zheng and was about to grab the calligraphy. But at this time, Zhang Sun Wuji was also anxious. Looking left and right, he finally put another calligraphy on top. Cheng Yaojin was the most pleased with himself. Seeing Li Shimin and Wei Zheng arguing with each other, he happily hugged the calligraphy like it was a treasure and hid in a corner with Zhang Sun Wuji, whispering to each other. Zhang Feng was speechless when he saw the two arguing with each other. That's enough, Lao Li. You're going overboard. Aren't there 4 pieces of calligraphy here? Each of us gets a piece of calligraphy. Didn't I give it to you before? Do you have to be like this? Li Shimin's face turned red when he heard that. But his hand that was holding the calligraphy did not loosen at all. Lao Li, you're in the wrong here. You know how old Wei is like. There's no room for discussion. Li Shimin immediately lost his temper. The two of them argued again. Zhang Feng was speechless and said, Lao Li, do you remember that I said that I would show you a treasure when we meet again? Hearing this, everyone looked at Zhang Feng with a swoosh. Treasure? Chapter 54. Everyone wanted to know. What exactly was the treasure Zhang Feng was talking about? Zhang Feng looked around sneakily, then pulled out a piece of paper from the account book under the abacus on the counter. Here it is. As he spoke, Zhang Feng carefully unfolded the paper in his hand and spread it out in front of everyone's eyes. A map that no one had ever seen before appeared on the paper. Although the drawing was not exquisite, at least Li Shimin and the other 3 saw the words, Tang Dynasty, at the bottom right of the paper map at first glance. This is... Li Shimin was shocked. Looking at the map, he asked with a puzzled face. This is the treasure you were talking about, little brother? But Wei Jing stared at the map thoughtfully. After looking at it carefully, he said, Brother Zhang, this map, is it the map of the west of the Tang dynasty? Old Wei knows his stuff. Yes, this is the map of the west of the Tang dynasty. Zhang Feng patted Wei Zheng on the shoulder, looked at Li Shimin and the other two puzzled faces, and said, You know about the Silk Road, right? But the map of the Silk Road has always been something that we businessmen have always respected. We were lucky enough to see it, but this map of the Silk Road seems to be different? Li Shimin looked at the map and said, The complete version of the map of the Silk Road was hidden in the palace of the Tang dynasty, and all the commercial and military deployments in the west were carried out according to the map. But the map in front of them, it seemed to be very different from the map they knew. No one understood the meaning of the map, nor did they know why Zhang Feng took it out at this time. They couldn't help but look at Zhang Feng again. Zhang Feng pretended to be mysterious and said, You are all businessmen. Last time when Lao Li came to find me, he cried so miserably. As he spoke, Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder. Li Shimin, on the other hand, felt uneasy. He hurriedly explained, No, I really didn't cry. Really. However, under the knowing gazes of Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji, Li Shimin had no choice but to shut his mouth, and Zhang Feng did not give him a chance to explain. Because they were all men. They all wanted to save face. That's why I racked my brains and used all that I've learned in my life to create this map with the Night Guardian. This map starts from Chang and ends at the Mediterranean Sea. This map... Wait. Wei Jing reached out and stopped Zhang Feng. He asked, Little brother Zhang, how did you get this map? Or rather, how did you draw it? I calculated it. Let me tell you. Every night, when all of you are sleeping, I will be in outer space, soaring above this world, looking down on all living beings. Cough cough. Get to the point. The corner of Wei Zheng's mouth twitched. He interrupted Zhang Feng and asked, If this map was really drawn by you, then the meaning of this map is, to create a new business route. Think about the map that you know. Which merchant in the world doesn't know about something that even you know about? Do you want to get rich? Get rich, everyone's faces darkened. However, this was not the time to make things clear. Li Shimin coughed. Little brother, continue. Lao Li has good taste. If the emperor had the same taste as you, that would be great. As he spoke, Zhang Feng sighed. However, Zhang Feng's exclamation made Li Shimin even more anxious. Are you insulting me? However, Zhang Feng did not give him a chance. He continued, This is a business route that has never been opened before. Now that all of you have a rough idea of what goods each country needs, it's easy to handle. Right now, all of you have seen Chang and City, Longyu Road, and even the entire Tang dynasty. How many foreign businesses and goods are there? Not many, right? What does that mean? Everyone thought about it carefully. That was indeed the case. However, this had nothing to do with them. If they were really businessmen, this map might really make them more money than they could spend in at least 300 years. However, they were not businessmen. At this moment, Qing Yaojin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly interrupted, Then according to what you're saying, if this map is really a treasure, then it can be used in other places as well? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard that. Why did Emperor Wu of Han open the Silk Road? Business. However, the most important thing was to open up a channel, a lifeline that connected to the outside world. It was also because of this trade route that everyone knew that the outside world was even wider. That's right. Old Qin, you know me the best. Zhang Feng looked at Qing Yaojin with admiration and said in a low voice, Do you know, at that time, if Emperor Wu of Han had not died, what would have happened now? Do you know the real purpose of Emperor Wu of Han opening the Silk Road? You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.